G'day, with Inforunners. I'm joined today by Sir Piggles, and Moist Noodle's about to raid us. That's why he's not on camera.
I'm on my way.
He's coming. He's
there
coming.
we go. Take my raid. Hang on 1 second.
All right. So what are we going to be doing today? We are going to be probably talking a lot about AIE, or I said AIE. I do it all the time. IAE. I don't know if you guys know, I went to a place called the AIE, and so I say AIE now instead of IAE, and I'm so synonymous with it that now other people call it AIE instead of I. I'm terrible. All right, that raid has come through. I'm not used to raiding on Twitch. I'm not used to it. There is lots of icons and stuff. Wait, I'll put it over there. You guys can see. Right.
I'm just getting the camera sorted now.
Yeah, no worries. Lemming sounds like he's joining us too in voice. How you doing, Lemming? He's just dropped into the channel. You can say hello if you want, Lemming. Nope. Okay. What about you, Piggles? How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Right. Have you recovered? Did you get sick at CitizenCon?
I did. Yeah, I got whatever that bug that was going around was, but it didn't hit me till
It was COVID.
like so it didn't actually hit me till like a week later. I had a trip immediately afterwards. I went on that and then got home, and pretty much the day after it, I was awful.
Yeah.
I think quite a lot of people got hit.
I've still got the cough from it. So I've got the COVID, like, you know, the lingering cough. So yeah. Good work. Thank you, Northern P, for good luck with the sleepless nights for the next week to cover. Yeah, I keep going. It's like 2 weeks of no sleep, but yeah. All right, there's Mr. Moist. Well, you don't look like you're awake, dude. Jeez, what happened to you? You're like,
dude,
yeah.
I rushed. Oh, dude, I rushed so hard to get home.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. But here I am. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I apologize for being late.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna have to flip your camera though. Hang on, give me a second. So if I flick it over to this one, and you, unless you can flip it on your side, because when we go, actually no, no, it should actually no, leave it, because what I'm worried about is when we go over here. Oh no, you're gonna be fine. We're all good. We're all good. Yeah, we're fine. We'll leave it the way it is. It's all good.
Cool.
You're just rudely talking to the wall like this.
Oh,
okay. Go to back. No. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Are you in a new room, or you've got your camera at a new angle? You moved.
I moved into a new house, dude.
Yeah, you don't have the green screen thing last time that you were here. What's all changed?
Yeah, no, I have like 50 times more space than I used to have. It's amazing.
I know that feeling. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to be taking questions from you guys today, as per usual. Can I tell people about this bot, Piggles, while you're here?
Yeah, go for it.
So Piggles made this bot, by the way, that we use, that no one else has. And I don't know how. I know other people are jealous of it. I know that way. So basically, what it does is it takes anytime you guys use the word question, it will literally suck it out of chat, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch, and it feeds it into a channel above that both of you boys can see, called Stream Questions. If you have a look on Discord, I don't have to tell Piggles, but obviously I've got to tell Moist because he's probably never used it before.
Yeah, that's really handy, dude. That's really cool.
And the little boxes. So red is YouTube and purple is Twitch, and so the questions will just come in there, and obviously the little emojis is just to let us know that we've done that one and to move on to the next one. And if there's one you don't want to, if there's one that you don't want to answer, just put like a cross or a no emoji on it or something like that. Like if it's just something that you don't want to. Other than that, we let those filter in. But then I think we'll probably kick it off today and talk about a few of the things that have been going on this week. So the one I want to talk about is how the Intrepid has been received. And then you guys can pick something, because I think it's just a little weird. It's like, I like Crusader, but I don't like this ship, so I'm going to complain. And I think there's a couple of parts to that. You're not going to like every ship, and you're not going to like every manufacturer. And is the ship even for you? And I mean this, like, a lot of us more veteran backers that are here at the moment, we don't really use starter ships. They're really for new people to get in. And I think when I look at the design of it, it is lower end Crusader. Like, you know how it's like more boxy and stuff. But a lot of people are complaining about the aesthetics of it, and I guess you could have problems with the aesthetics, but I don't know. There's some kind of ingratefulness there, or I don't like it, so I'm going to complain, and I just don't quite get that personally. You're not going to like everything they put out, surely. I don't know. I kind of put that off to you two. What's your kind of take on the whole situation?
I don't know if Piggles wants to go first because I'm quite opinionated when it comes to this ship, so I might talk a bit.
Yeah, I can go first.
As long as you like the discussion, you just gotta. If someone wants to cut in,
I'm down for sure.
Yeah. So you got to have that discussion. All right, go ahead, Piggles. It's different when you do it on your own because you're kind of used to talking. I know what it's like. So go ahead, Piggles.
So I think I'm in the minority here. I actually quite like how it looks, but I'm not really partial to any particular manufacturer. I generally just go by rule of cool. If I like it, I like it. So in terms of utility, I think it's decent. Yeah, you've got those two little cargo bays. I think it looks nice, and part of that look I think plays into its real intended market. You know, when you're manufacturing stuff for real, it's a lot cheaper to make something that's quite boxy. Because you're not spending as much money on.
Just while you're talking, this is Reddit, by the way, so I'm just going to scroll through it, and you just see how many posts they are. It's kind of calmed down since yesterday, but there is a lot on. Okay, now there's not a lot, but there was a lot yesterday that was just post after post of people fixing the ship. Like, oh, it needs to be symmetrical. Oh, it needs to. There was people complaining about one particular line on the ship as well, which I just thought was bananas.
Anyway. I think a lot of people didn't like that the cockpit doesn't line up with the center of the ship.
Yes,
I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, but I mean, personally, I quite like it. It's not like realistically, it's not for me. It's not intended for me. I will probably never fly it, but it's it's there. I think it looks nice, and some people will enjoy it. It's really it's really being able to cater for a wider audience because not everyone's going to like smooth lines like we've had before. Some people are going to like the boxy shape. So I think it's quite a good thing that they're diversifying the actual range of what ships look like. Maybe it's a little undergunned, but that's it's my own opinion.
And I will agree with that. And I'll after Moist has had his say, we'll talk about something because I in typical Inforunners fashion, I've gone into the future. Moist, go ahead.
So I do like Crusader. I'm the opposite of Piggles. I definitely do have manufacturers that I favor. I am very much an Anvil fanboy.
Me too.
I like a little bit of Aegis, but I really love Crusader. In my head, Crusader kind of reminds me of like classic Jaguar aesthetics.
It just had that song, from the 90s, like a little bit of Monica on the. I just said you're going a little bit of Aegis. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway.
I've always liked Crusader. The asymmetrical nature of, for example, the Ares has never bothered me. In fact, I like asymmetrical. I love the Corsair. But the role of the ship, I don't think CIG have really talked about what the role of the ship is supposed to be yet, right?
Not yet, no.
But the cargo, I think, is absolutely fantastic. The way that you can access the cargo elevators from the exterior, and then also access your cargo boxes from the interior is actually awesome.
Like a step up from the airlock. Like a step up from the 300 series because they just had that one little door, didn't they?
Yeah. But I have a big issue with the guns.
Yep, I think everyone does.
Now, something that I think a lot of people don't take into account when they talk about gun sizes is that they never take into account that one day armor is going to be a thing in this game. Yep. So penetration values is dependent on the size of the gun is actually important, right? Which is why when the drama around the Corsair was kicking off, and everyone was saying downsize the guns, just downsize the guns.
Yep.
The people who are asking for that don't realize that ultimately, if that's what they got, they would be screwing themselves over even more because they wouldn't be able to kill targets once armor is in the game that you can with fewer amounts of larger guns, right? So, having a size 3 gun is good because you can essentially damage a target that you wouldn't be able to damage, but it's one size 3 gun, right? And I just can't see what this ship is supposed to fight. It's outgunned by a cutter, right?
Well, the Avenger has that and 2 other guns.
Yeah, I can't really see the point of the ship, and I would love to come back to this conversation a year from now.
Yep.
Because I genuinely,
I think you're about to hit on what I want to talk about, but go ahead.
I genuinely think that this ship will ultimately prove to be a complete waste of CIG's resources, because I can almost, I just feel like I'd love to see the 5 people who are buying this ship, how many of them still have the ship a year from now.
Yeah.
And to just finish up on my little TED talk, I will touch on the aesthetics. It looks unfinished, dude. And that picture that you have up there, that Photoshop that somebody did, hits the nail on the head for me. Like, I personally, I don't mind the fact that it's asymmetrical, but the top of it, like, it's missing greeble. It's missing panel. It just doesn't look right. I don't mind the angles of the ship so much. But it does just look plain and flat,
I think the only thing I'd say aesthetically is that it's so boxy in parts, it actually looks more like the Anvil Pisces bigger brother than it does a Crusader ship. That would be my only complaint. It's like it's a double width Pisces if you kind of look at it from behind. What I want to do.
I'm not really.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not really surprised it's so boxy, to be honest, because they've fit so much interior space in there. If you want to sort of break it up and move it about, I imagine you'd have to add quite a lot on the outside. And I did actually just have one other thing on the what it's meant to fight fronts. I'm not sure. Is it really meant to fight something? Maybe it's just got a gun to kind of hold its own until support shows up.
It won't hold its own, though. There's literally no point having a gun. If you're giving it one size 3 gun, there is no point having a gun.
If you look at all of the Crusader ships, they've got runner in the name. It's meant to be fast. It's not meant to fight. So ironically, making it look like the Ares is the problem, right? Because people think it's meant to fight, but it's not. All right. So what I actually want to do, and I don't think I'm going to fix it today, but I'm going to get you to think outside the box, right? Now, if we think back to the Pisces and the Cutter, what happened 12 months after both these came out?
I assume people started melting.
No, we got the C8R, and then we got the Cutter Scout, and we got the Cutter Rambler.
I could see this being... I could definitely see variants of this ship.
Well, I'm going to tell you the variant that I see very obviously, and if we don't have one, I'll be super surprised. And if we know how the Cutter was done, they already know what the variants are for this. They're just holding onto them for 12 months, right?
Yeah.
I think very obviously there is a bounty hunter variant of this, right? Now, the way the cargo goes in the back, where it's completely horizontal, and you can open it up and kind of look in it like it's a coffin, I reckon that's for 2 bounty hunter pods, right? And this gun, it looks like it can fit a size 4. I think there's a bounty hunter variant coming.
I think you could be right, actually.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, this definitely. Do you know what? I think you've hit the nail on the head. I suspect they actually designed the variants first.
Well, they did that with the Cutter. They designed all 3 and then just sat on the other 2 variants and then released them 12 months later. They did the same thing with the Pisces, by the way. They actually originally had 3 variants of the Pisces. What we ended up getting was a skin, because remember how we got that Pisces Expedition skin, and during the episode of ISC, they showed off that there was a scanning variant that they got rid of. The scanning variant would have been the Expedition variant. So what they did was they kept that. They already had the skin for it, so they just released the skin as a normal skin.
And the other thing with the Expedition was it had extra hull points compared to the regular Pisces.
Exactly, because originally, if you think about what you think, I think it's really silly that they got rid of it, but obviously something changed internally. But if you think about it, when the carrot goes up to a small jump point, originally, that's probably what changed, actually, now I think about it. You couldn't actually, bigger ships couldn't go through smaller jump points back then. Now all ships can go through the standard jump points, the real big ones. But if you find a transient jump point and it's too small and only the Pisces can go through, you get where I'm going, right? You used to have to track the wormhole. So they've changed something about how wormholes are done, and therefore they didn't need the expedition variant anymore. And I think that's what's happened. And they just made it a skin because they already had it. Anyway, but if I've got a bounty hunting variant, what else do you think could possibly be for this? Knowing it's Crusader, the only one else I can think of is a bigger cargo variant.
Lemming in chat, I think actually might have hit the nail on the head. A bomber variant. I could absolutely see where those pods are at the back on either side. Yeah, I could see.
Yeah, I could see a light bomber.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's also a really there's something that I don't know, you kind of can't really see it here, but just see that part there, then the part between the two engines, and then there's another one up. I know my arm's getting cut off, but that when you look, when you look at it from the back, I don't know if I can go back to Reddit and let me duplicate this and paste and go back to this, and then so there was ones yesterday of it from behind, and that's what I'm trying to look for, because then I can point out what I'm talking about. But it's got these 3 weird sections on the back. Here we go. See these 3 things here? I've never seen those on any ship, and I'm wondering if it's got anything to do with the variant. I could be completely, like, it could just be a rule of cool, and I could be, but it's just really weird that there's these 3 kind of things on the back, and I don't know what they are. Like, it's just...
It almost looks like you could put like a small dispenser, like a mine launcher or something along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know. And I just wondered if that had it, because when I first walked up to the ship, I noticed them straight away and I went, what the hell are these?
Well, I mean, the middle one kind of reminds me of the rail for the turret on the Scorpius.
A little bit, almost. Yeah. I could be
the middle one looks like a flare dispenser.
Yeah, I could be totally seeing things that don't exist, right? But I just found it really weird that it had these 3 things on the back of it. And I thought, I wonder if that's got anything to do with one of the variants. And then I kind of just left it there. So I don't know, put that in your back pocket. It might mean absolutely nothing. But yeah, I just keep... The bomber variant sounds really cool, though. But what do you call it? The C0? Or the A0?
0.5, dude.
Is it the decimal place bomber or something? I don't know.
Intrepid Resolute or something.
If this is the case, though, I'm actually more annoyed because I wish they had just introduced that ship, right? Like if they are working on variants like bombers or whatever, I would have just preferred that than this. Like ultimately, I just think this is going to end up being a ship that no one really wants to own.
I think more likely you're going to get a cargo variant. I think bomber is... Like, I'm thinking it'll be the cheapest bomber we've ever had. Like, the cheapest bomber that currently, they're like 150 plus. Like you got the Misery and the Gladiator at 175. So,
yeah, but it doesn't need to be that size. Well, first of all, are we talking about bombs or torpedoes, right?
Oh, if it was torpedoes, that could be interesting.
Yeah, and we don't know what size we're talking about, right? So,
so like a T1. Oh,
yeah. Do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember they showed the Gladius years ago as well with the... I can't remember what size bombs those were that they were dropping from it.
We actually, when we talked to John Crew and Ben Curtis, they actually said that yes, originally one of the plans was to make that modular. Now it's moved so far along, it would be a new variant. So they would make a Gladiator bomber variant.
I didn't even consider this, and now that we've talked about this, I'm a little bit more open-minded to the Intrepid. However,
that's why I brought it up, because just changing your perception.
I still feel like the aesthetic of the ship, only really from the top, it still looks unfinished to me, and I don't think I'll ever not be able to see that.
I think it's because they went probably one step too far. As I said, it's got exactly the same angles as the Pisces. I think they kind of need, personally, like, and this is just not like me giving shit to them, I would have added one more angle in, right? So I would have had, so instead of it just going out and then in, I would have had it go out, down, and then down. Just that one extra curve to remove it from being too close to the Pisces. Obviously, it's been some kind of... Because if you look at the other series of ships, essentially, the more you come down from the top series of Crusader ships, the more boxy it gets. Because you can go look at the Spirit and you can see it's a step down from the Hercules, right? I just think they went one step too far down. And clearly whoever designed this, that they were going for that cheaper look. But as I said, we've got another ship series that does that. And I can also see where people are complaining about how it's not symmetrical. They don't want it asymmetrical, but I'm sorry, asymmetry is really a part of Crusaders thing now. It's just how it is. When I go inside the ship, because we haven't even talked about that yet, right? I had a lot of people complaining that there's 2 tunnels, and there does appear to be, like, you know, when you just walk in the entrance and then you've got all the doors. I think the reason they've done that, and I sat there for about half an hour trying to think of why this thing had no components in the hallway, no nothing. And the only thing I found in there was the fire extinguisher. I think it might be so when a fire breaks out, that fire extinguisher is blocked off with whenever a door's closed, that fire would be behind a door. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
It's literally a firewall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that means like the biggest room in the ship kind of doesn't do anything. It's not even a single component in there, but that also means there'll never be a fire in that room. So if you're in the driver's seat and you walk into that hallway, you're going to be able to pick up the fire extinguisher and you're going in with a fire extinguisher into a fire. Now, if you think about it, when you're being chased by people, because obviously it's not going to really be doing fighting, you're going to get damaged. So it allows you to pick up that fire extinguisher after you get to safety, put out the fire, and then people go, why is an engineering consult? Well, then you can repair yourself, obviously, without going outside the ship. So it all starts to kind of make sense when you think about not having the gun, not really fighting. It's meant to run. And again, I think the gun is almost like the guns they put on the mole, you know, like they're just there for in case you need to shoot something. They're not really the primary objective, which is a shame because it looks like the Ares, you know? So
having this conversation... Go on.
I think from a purely practical standpoint, it's generally better in most sort of airtight scenarios like a spacecraft to be able to section off as much as possible. Yeah, that way if someone's going in and out, you don't depressurize like the cockpit, for example, you can just depressurize that area of the ship. Like you said, if you've got a fire, you can contain it to certain smaller areas to stop it from spreading, because it's great if you've kept it in one area, but if that one area is huge, that's not really going to do you a whole lot of good. So, you know, from that kind of point of view, it's generally better, I think, to separate it as much as possible. And you do see that in a lot of the Crusader designs, even if it's a little annoying going through all the doors. And I quite like that about it, even if it is a massive pain in the arse at the moment.
Speaking of doors, that entrance is one of the best entrances I've ever seen on a ship. Like, I actually gasped when I opened it for the first time.
I was literally just staring at that, and that does look fantastic.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Zeus, but a size down, and just the detailing in the gap of the wall, like it's got little hydraulic pumps that open the door and stuff like that.
So, like the little stairs. They did a similar thing with the 100 series.
Well, technically, it's like a ramp. There's no animation to get in. It's more like your favorite series, the 100 series, Piggles. So it's a lot like that. Yeah. So I think we really need to see the variants before I can comment on this. And I also think when we actually learn about what this is really intended for at AIE, I just keep coming back to the Spirit and the Mercury Star on it, and I don't think it's a fighter. I think that's clearly based on the fact that it's only got one gun. But maybe we will get a bounty hunting variant, and maybe they'll add a turret. Maybe it'll, I don't know. I don't know what they'll add in the bounty hunting variant, if there even is one. But I just started to think there's clearly variants for this. There's been variants for every starter that's come out over the last, 6 years. So it would be kind of stupid to think that there isn't going to be a variant. And I just put that in the back pocket, and I said to myself, this is the worst variant. The base variants are often, Cutter was the better one, but you get what I mean? Usually they're the worst, aren't they? So, yeah.
I love the Cutter, dude. I genuinely love the Cutter. I think it's sick.
Yeah.
Especially now that it can kick the shit out of an Intrepid. I'd love to watch them dogfight each other.
Do you think bounty hunting falls under Crusader's purview, though? That's the other thing I wanted to ask, too.
I mean, it can be, you know. Right now, I can't think of a Crusader ship that I would necessarily go bounty hunting in outside of the Ares. But yeah, I don't think the Ares really is the best bounty hunting ship.
Yeah,
I'd say Crusader is. Sorry.
Go ahead, Lemming. Was that Lemming? Oh, no. Go ahead, Piggles.
I'd say Crusader as a manufacturer is a relatively diverse company. So if you go to Horizon, and you'll see all those massive barges. They work on the barges. They've got the military side covered. They've got bombers, fighters, transport. So in terms of actually what they do, it's a hell of a lot. So it wouldn't really surprise me if they did come out with something.
They do have I guess they got the Ares,
so it wouldn't really surprise me if they did come out with something like bounty hunting, because that kind of slots right in the middle of all of those different things.
Yeah, Paul was saying that he thinks that this is an Explorer. I don't think it is. I think it's the cheap man's cheapest smuggling vessel, because it's all built for speed. So
I mean, yeah, smuggling, I could definitely, especially with the jump points coming, I could see that being a thing. And something else that we haven't talked about is how maneuverable this ship is.
Yep.
It's absolutely insanely maneuverable, which lines up with Crusader's whole shtick with engines, right? So,
agreed.
Although it has the one size 3 gun, it can, I joke about it fighting the cutter. I do think this would actually beat a cutter just because it can outfly the cutter, I'm pretty sure. But it would be a miserable experience because it would take you friggin' forever to.
If anyone can do it, Moist, it will be you. How about this? I'll bring a cutter and you can cut me to pieces in the Intrepid. You just can flat me.
I don't know if I want to put myself through that, dude. It would take so long to get through the shields of the cutter.
I think this is clearly, like, if you look at it on paper, right, against the Avenger, as long as you take the guns out of the equation, this can't do a vehicle, but an Avenger can. But I think this will outfly some of the smaller stuff. Like, I think it's got the speed, and also you already look at the hit points. I think you're right about the armor potentially as well. I think this will kind of be more like it's sacrificing the gun, but they're giving it like extra life and hull points and armor points and stuff like that. And then I think it'll also have the speed. So essentially they've pulled everything towards the defense and speed, and then it's lost all the gun stuff. But it just ironically has one big, massive gun to look like the Ares.
Something else to take into account as well that I've not really seen anyone talk about is, with it having one gun, think about the Ares for a second. So we are heading towards a time of armor coming to the game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really important, and engineering, and it's going to be really important to sub-target components, turrets, etc.
So
now imagine being...
You about to say mini sniper? Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, actually.
So
because you have the one gun, it makes it so much easier to focus on hitting individual turrets and components and stuff like that. Because that's really hard to do when you have ships like the F8 or like the Connie or whatever, where the gun spread is quite wide, right? So I could definitely see this being like a precision fighting ship.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's the other variant then, like a zippy sniper. I don't know. I'm now intrigued. I'm now intrigued to know, like, not that I want to know what they are just so I can go rush out and buy one, but I'm just intrigued what the variants are going to be, because I think that's going to change how a lot of people think of this ship. Well, I hope it does.
I can just imagine, having that little side room that it's got in there just be full of like charge coils and capacitor banks, and you charge it up and you have one really strong shot coming out the front there.
That would be pretty,
like Avenger Warlock style. You got the whole back EMP room. You could have a gun charge room.
You guys have just made me think of something. Cargo, right? So you know how I said it was cargo? What if the variant of this is a data runner? Those things at the back. What if they're data runner stuff?
I could see that.
That did pop into my head. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
We are fairly limited on data running ships as well. We've got the Herald Mercury, and that's it.
Yeah. So
I could see this zipping through a jump point real quick, right?
Yeah, and then it kind of like connects up and unloads the data. And what if the cargo areas become like computer banks? You know, and oh, wow, okay, that's definitely in their purview. Let's be honest. That's where
Chaos.
the MSR all started.
Chaos in chat literally just said a big antenna on the front. Can you
actually? Yeah,
that would kind of be
like
cool.
Like the Herald with the oh yeah. Be onto something there, people. It's just interesting to speculate because as soon as you start to speculate, it changes your perception. And so that's all I was trying to do. Sure. So because there's a lot of negative people out there, and it's like, what if? Now they may never come to be, but what if? And you all of a sudden, like you said earlier, you're thinking different now, aren't you? You're not as negative as you was. It's like, oh
no, I still think the base model is a waste of time.
yeah, I agree. Right,
I wish it just kicked off with the variant.
Yeah, well, but there are issues with this, but again, I think there are things in the game like armor that need to come in, and I think if it is really, I think if it really, there's just things that we can't see. That's one of the big things I learned when I talked to John and Ben. There is just so much shit that we don't know.
So I think, don't forget that by the time this ship comes out, we were supposed to have had engineering, right?
Well, there is an engineering panel.
I have a funny feeling that we are missing a lot of context with this ship because we don't have engineering. And again, that kind of leans back into, well, I think the point of this ship might have been to be for like sniping components and stuff like that on a ship.
So wise Uncle Moist Noodle is asking for patience. Yes, agreed. I think give him a bit of time for it to actually come out and talk about it. And that clearly they're what's happened in the last 48 hours, I think they're bracing for a lot of answering questions. You know, the Q&A, they'll hopefully answer a lot in that.
You know, I think we've had this happen a few times now, and I don't think they should hold the Q&A for like when the sale of the ship happens. They should just put out the Q&As when they reveal the ship, like, because all it does is it just makes the community super salty.
This isn't revealed. If anything, this is going to turn them off, letting them out early. It's like, oh, we released it and they'll hate it. Well, they're not getting them anymore. You know, like, it's the first time they've kind of given it to everyone to try. We've been asking for it for years, and our first reaction is, we hate it. Like, so that's going to turn them off doing this in the future. But the cool part is you get to try it now before you buy it. And we've been saying that for years. They need to put them out just in a preview sense so people can try them and then buy them, especially the more hardcore backers. But yeah, I think the Q&A needs to be there day one. Because right now, this is the other thing, is we as veterans do recommend these to our friends to buy. I don't see a lot of people recommending this right now.
Yeah, no. Again,
I think I'd struggle to recommend it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's the Avenger on paper. What would you recommend, this or the Avenger? And most people are going to say the Avenger because it does 8 SCU of cargo, got the guns, you can put a vehicle in it, it's still got the bed, it's got the... I think the only thing it doesn't have is the shower. And toilet. Could be mistaken. It's been a while since I've been in the Avenger, but you get my point. So I guess the toilet and that speaks to the long rangeness of this as well. Maybe it's got...
yeah, potentially. Like, it does feel like you're supposed to live in it, right? So yeah. Right. I feel like this thing is probably supposed to go to Pyro, maybe.
Yeah. All right, we've kind of beaten that like a dead horse. The Polaris. Let's change tune a little bit here for a second. So, how do you guys think that's coming to the game? Because to me, it's like another level.
I think you already know how I feel about the Polaris.
Well. Yeah, well, you and I had a great time. You want to tell everyone what we did? Because that was no. You go ahead. I've talked too much.
Oh, no, after you, dude.
Well,
because I want you to tell this story because it was the first time that you got to do the thing, right?
Yeah. So, I went and joined Moist. I got put on the big turret up the front. I think it was about 5 hours in total we were playing, wasn't it? Something like that.
It didn't feel that long though.
No, because it was fun. What's the thing? It was some of the most visceral fun, and we did so many different types of gameplay in such a short period. Well,
Yeah.
I say 5 hours, but you know what I mean? Like the way it unfolded, it was just very organic. It wasn't kind of forced. So we go in and do the safe stand mission. We take out the Idris. We blow off the engines. I'm on the big turret. I blow off the door. We all pile out of the Polaris. Everyone goes in. Everyone else goes right. I stupidly go left. We kill almost all the guys. I get down to the last 2 guys, and then I get taken out on the stairs. Moist comes and rescues me, and we're all trying to get out of the Polaris as it's being shot, and everyone else is
being torpedoed by another Polaris.
Yeah. And everyone's like trying to get out, and I'm like here hobbling, like, oh god, and it's just like the tension's building. I fall out into space. We all kind of get back into the Polaris. I set my respawn. I have to off myself because one of my arms won't. I can't even fire the turret because my arm doesn't work. So I reset myself, and then after that all calms down and that's all destroyed, another Polaris comes and ticks Moist off. So we just start a player fight, and it's Polaris versus Polaris.
Any excuse to shoot someone, dude.
Yeah. and meanwhile, while this is all going on, we've got ships landing in the hangar, going off in the hangar, like all that type of thing going on as well. So it's just like all hands on deck. And then you start to add things like engineering's yet to come. And all that on top of it, you start to realize like there's just going to be so much going on. Yeah.
I feel like once engineering is in the game, for me, the Polaris, I think most people who know who I am, they always have seen me as a PvP dogfighter type. And I've definitely, since Master Modes has come out, leaned away from that. Not necessarily because of Master Modes, just because I've been leaning more into just other types of gameplay that we previously didn't have. Yeah. Because I'm not necessarily that into PvP. The only reason I got into PvP was because literally back in the day, there was nothing else to do, right? Like that's all there was. And, you know, fighters themselves aren't necessarily what got me into Star Citizen or interest me that much. The ship that got me into Star Citizen was the Reclaimer, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
My favorite. Okay.
So I followed Star Citizen from the Kickstarter, but it was when they showed the original concept art for the Reclaimer, I was like, okay, I'm gonna back this now because that's really cool.
At the same time, I had all my money saved up to buy the Orion, and I wasn't really interested in the concept of the salvage ship. Then they dropped the concept art of the Reclaimer, and I'm like, and I brought that instead, and then I had to save back up again to buy the Orion.
Yeah, and I just, for me, so when I was in school, or I just left school, Star Wars Galaxies came out, and I went with my best friend at the time to the game shop, and I went with him to buy his copy of Star Wars Galaxies. Unfortunately, for me though, I didn't have a computer at the time, so I couldn't play it, and I didn't play Star Wars Galaxies until its very last month. But the thing that I was always most excited for in Star Wars Galaxies was the Jump to Lightspeed expansion, because they had actual multi-crew gameplay in that. So when CIG kind of showed the Reclaimer, it immediately made me think of like the multi-crew gameplay from Jump to Lightspeed, and I never got to experience that, and it was literally my dream, right? So when we took the Polaris out, I can hand on. I have played Star Citizen for well over 10,000 hours, probably closer to 20,000, and that's not exactly like Star Citizen. I have sat here for a long time, 8 to 12 hours a day playing Star Citizen for many, many years. Like, it's a lot. And taking that Polaris out was genuinely the most fun I have ever had in Star Citizen, because of exactly what you said. It was such a diverse range of different types of gameplay that we engaged in. And then on top of that, we just had a really cool group of people. Yeah. And everyone was super chill.
And helpful.
You know, everyone
and working together.
Everyone was helpful.
And communicating. It was amazing.
It was absolutely fantastic. So, you know, now the next step really is engineering, right? Like for me, it already feels like that is a ship that I can live on. I know that Bognogus is doing a thing where he is going to live on the Polaris for I think he said 100 hours or something like that. And yeah, for me, I think I'm probably going to be spending a lot of time with the Polaris.
Yep.
And
especially now when combat is kind of one of the premier gameplays. Like, that's the thing I started to think of. Like, I started to after we did this, I was like, take the closest ship to this at the moment is in different gameplay would be the Odyssey. What's that going to be like? Where combat kind of drops off completely, but you've got the hangar. So the hangar added so much to the ship though. Like, so all these different ships coming in. Like, so instead of combat ships coming in, you'd be having Terrapins come in and prospectors come in and vultures and stuff like that. And then they're going into all those different gameplays that those ships would add as they come into the Odyssey. That's where I started to go. I was like, how do you maximize this out? And it's a very bright future. I'm very because up until now we've only really been able to theorize this stuff, right? But actually seeing it become reality is scarily cool. I don't know how else to put that. I always envision what the Polaris would be like, but then that just going out and doing it exceeded my expectations, and I think that was reflected in what you said too. Because you messaged me afterward and went, you're like a hyperactive schoolboy. I could just tell it in the way you wrote. It was only like 3 lines or whatever you wrote, but I could just tell by the way. Oh God, dude, that was amazing!
Dude, I messaged like 5 other content creators to all of them, going, dude, I just had the most epic time with the Polaris.
Yeah,
it was so good, man. And we haven't even seen the beginning yet, because all we had in the PTU was the Idris event, right? And it's one thing to it's cool to fight an Idris, right? But I didn't have access to any of my bigger bounty hunter missions, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see, going into live with our rep, what kind of fun we can actually have with the Polaris.
All right, Paul Piggles, have you had a chance to even get on the Polaris yet? He probably hasn't.
I have actually. I have.
You
one.
have? All right.
Yeah, so I actually have fairly mixed opinions about the Polaris. I absolutely love the concept of it, and I love how versatile it is. It's an experience when you get a group of 12, 13 people. I think
it's 13.
Your kind of crew
is the crew.
Yeah. When you get a group of people together on a ship like that's so versatile, that's an experience that you cannot get anywhere else. And I absolutely love that, and I will continue to enjoy that forever. My main issue with it is from a design perspective, it feels like a little bit of a regression from kind of recent quality jumps.
Really?
I understand what you mean. I think.
Do you mean internally? It's got to be internally.
Internally,
because externally, holy crap!
Externally, I love it. It's got like that Spaceball 1 kind of feel,
Can I just interject with one criticism that I have, and I suspect it's one that you have as well? Lack of signage. Did you notice?
Apparently they updated it and added more signage. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, really?
I haven't been in the most recent patch, but I spent a while walking around, and I'm going. I mean, I can.
It's clearly not finished though, guys. Like, there's no switches to bring the elevators or ramps down. And if you think about it, like most other ships, they would be down near the feet or something like that. So you could you press the button and then walk over to where the ramp comes down.
That elevator near the front gear is so dumb. Why do they put a switch 100 foot up
you
in
can't
the air?
reach? Yeah. I had to go on Reddit to actually.
Why don't they put it on the landing gear?
Yeah.
There must be some technical reason why they can't put switches on landing gear.
Well, they probably disappear. Just think about when the landing gear goes up, they despawn. But couldn't you just fake it so it
but if you're on the ground and you need the elevator, then the gear's down, right? So
actually, if you can't have a switch on landing gear, then why can you have it on an elevator? That's one thing. Anyway,
okay. Well, elevators don't despawn.
I have another question. Why?
Yeah.
why there's so many issues with landing gear. Like when you break off a wing, for example, that has landing gear on it, right? The landing gear is still floating there, right? So I think
they haven't despawned yet.
It's to do with the rigging of the landing gear, because they're all joined to each other. That's why you end up with the floating landing gear. If I remember correctly, they talked about this a while ago. So they need. I know at some point there's new landing gear tech coming, if it's not in already.
Yep.
So I don't know if that has something to do with it, but
I'll rewrite it.
Like Saboteur said in chat, like I feel like this is kind of heading towards us being able to open doors remotely, because obviously the engineering console allows us to open multiple doors in the ship, right?
Well, it kind of makes sense. If you opened your Mobi glass, you could just have your Polaris app and you just go beep, lower door.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be how I would do it, especially on bigger ships, because they cost so much. They come with their own app, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I think it's a really good first step for our in-game capital. I'm interested to see. Look, they're going to learn a lot with this, like we said about the landing gear and other stuff, and signage. And let's be honest, they've had a lot more time in the Idris and Javelin than they have in this. I think a lot of those things will eventually come over. You can tell it's unfinished very simply because you can't get into the captain's quarters. So this is, it wasn't really ready. They said it's coming at AOE, so they just had to push it out. I think they clearly needed a little bit more time in the oven.
Or maybe there's just a surprise in the captain's quarters, dude. Who knows?
Yeah, it's John Crew's body.
Xenomorph waiting for you. Yeah, as a start, I think it's decent, but I'd like to see some more development on it as we go on, because there are some things that are lacking, and there's little bits of detail that we've been seeing in more recent releases that just aren't there. And yeah, little details like that. Sure, that's kind of the kind of thing you look at towards the end of the process. So
I kind of just found
I do get the impression that it kind of sat for a while, and then they brought it up to standard just to stick on the PTU, and then it just needs a little bit more development and a little bit more work so they can get it to where it can be.
Yeah, I kind of found it obvious that it wasn't finished. Just once the captain's quarters, I started going through and go, yeah, there's not enough signage in here. There's why is there not like landing gear switches for the elevator and stuff like that? And why do I have to go walk out to the end of the ramps and stuff like that? And again, if they do have to add an app, obviously it's a cart before the horse problem, because this is the first kind of, I guess we had the 890 jump in that as well, but they had other ways to get in, didn't they? So, you know. Yeah.
But even if you're not going to put something like a button on landing gear, some kind of indication of where you're looking at on the ground would be great. So
they do
like
have
on the 890
those.
jump.
They do,
but like on the 890 jump, you've got that little light circle on the floor, right?
That is such an elegant solution, and I don't understand. I know that they like to keep certain things to certain manufacturers, but that's one of those things that I kind of feel like should be on most ships.
Even if they just had an actual light, like an actual physical light on the bottom of the Polaris, to say
just
this
a
is
blinking light or something. Yeah.
Well, no. Like what I mean is, like, so you know how they did the circle for the Reclaimer and the 890 jump. If they just had a physical light that made the circle on the ground.
Yeah, that's all they need. Just some kind of indication of where to go.
Yeah. You know, and they could even have it that they say it's got a sensor. When you walk into the light, if you are okay to come on the ship, it just brings the elevator down.
Transporter technology.
Yeah, we have that. Well, we have that now. My doorbell detects when I walk past it on the camera, so, and it can recognize my face. You just look up at the Polaris and it comes down. Anyway. All right, teething issues I think we can agree on. Hopefully they fix them in time. What else have we got to look at? Medical Terrapin. I can take it or leave it with that one. I'm not... I don't hate it. I don't
take
love
that back. I love it, dude. It's the best. I actually love the medical Terrapin.
It's the best.
It's awesome.
It's not the best medical ship. It's just the best.
It's just the best.
Yeah. Well,
it's so cool, dude. It reminds me of the ship. I don't know if you played Cyberpunk. But the medical ship towards the beginning of the game that comes and picks the
tutorial mission,
dudes, really good.
So they moved the sensors to the bottom, right? I was hoping that this would have a drone, because if it's a soloistic ship, because there's only one seat, right? I was like, how the hell are you going to get someone into the ship? So I thought, well, if it had a shepherd drone like the Apollo, you could essentially scan, find the person, and we know a lot of the drones can do A to B. So basically, you fly in just above where the body is, send the drone down, it picks them up, drops them into the bed, and then flies off. Because you're not going to be able to leave the pilot seat, obviously, because you're flying and you're in a combat situation. So I thought it was going to have a drone, but I can't see one. So yeah, if you've actually got to land and get out and get people, I just don't see this happening, because it did say search and rescue, right? So I just assumed that it had a drone on it, but
does it not have a jump seat for a medic?
No, there's only one seat, so the scanning seat's gone.
Yeah, I thought that was. Yeah. I actually thought that was really weird, because there's no jump seat.
And wouldn't you want to have a doctor or a nurse on it in the back area look after people? But no, it doesn't even have that. You can, in fact, so behind the, the little tunnel as it heads back to the scanning seat on the other one, there's now glass doors there, and you can lock them as if you can pick someone up, and if they're crazy lunatic madman, you can lock them in there.
And then you're trapped in the.
Yeah, you're trapped in the pilot seat.
Cockpit.
But it means when you land and they get off, you can then get out. So
yeah.
It's really, I don't know how, unless there's some kind of hidden drone, I don't understand how it's going to work. Other than it just being a ship, you lock the door, someone gets in, they get healed, they get out.
So my hope with this ship is that once engineering and armor is in, that this thing is just incredibly tanky.
Oh, it's going to be incredibly tanky, but like, again, doesn't that lead it going into a combat environment?
Oh, absolutely.
Or are you going to be rescuing people from the corona, a sun's corona or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, I just start to think it is essentially doing a very similar role as the cutter, but it's going into a more dangerous environment and more injured people because it's got less of them because it's got a more powerful bed. So I don't quite see the role yet. That's why I keep coming back to the drone. And again, I keep trying to validate the price at the same price of the other Terrapin. And I keep going, I can only see this getting cheaper. Like, I just don't think it's going to sell at $220.
Oh, I absolutely think it will. It's so many years people have been asking for a medical Terrapin. I think this will sell. I can see a lot of people upgrading their Cutty Reds to this.
Okay.
Personally.
Do you think we might also get the other variant in lore, which is the personnel transport variant? So the
100%.
Yeah, the military use it as a personnel transport. Yeah. So
well, I think the little like ribbing along the sides where the door is, it screams dropship, doesn't it? Like opening up and
Well, I think the other, I'd assume the other variant has 2 doors, the dropship variant. And you basically put both doors down, and then I don't know how many people you'd be able to fit in there, probably 8, and they or less, and they just like scramble out. But it's essentially armored, so it can take all the shots and get them in there. So, yeah, I reckon we might see.
There's people in chat saying Cutty Red is way more functional than the Metapin. You'd have to explain what, because does the Cutlass Red have a tier 2 bed?
No, it's got 2 beds though. I think is what they're trying to say, so you can bring more people back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about the game that we have now. Like, how is medical gameplay? Like, I generally don't know that much about the plans for medical gameplay. Like, what is the plan for?
Yep. So the C8
medical beds going forward.
So for example, the C8R has an extra seat for a nurse. This does not. Right. They both have tier 3 beds. This has a tier 2. So basically what I'd have to go back and look at it to get the exact numbers, but basically a tier 2 bed's respawn area is larger. So in a combat situation, this can sit on the back line and reach further than the Cutty Red and the C8R. So it allows you to kind of go further away from it and be in more danger.
For sure. Yeah.
So maybe that's all it is. You park the ship, get out, and you run further away and go more into danger so you can respawn on your own ship. If that's all it is, that's kind of meh. But yeah, I'd like to think well, they called it the search and rescue variant in the Jax McCleary video.
So
and it even says
it.
It says it
dome,
right. Well, it says search
you
and
see
rescue
that
on
dome
it.
underneath?
Yeah, that's the scanner.
I suspect. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I suspect this will have like a pretty strong scanner if it's search and rescue, right? To be able to find people.
That was on top, and it's now on the bottom for this variant because it's clearly scanning down to find things. And I think the one on top, the smaller one, has disappeared completely, and I think that's powering the bed, essentially. So, yeah. I don't know. Again, I'll be interested to see if it comes with a drone and stuff, but this one's got some big question marks for me on how it's going to fit. But
I don't reasonably see it having a drone, to be honest. I mean, where would you put it? Where would it launch from? It's just not.
I could see it having a very small drone just for searching.
Yeah,
like a little camera drone, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I couldn't see one that would go and retrieve a body.
How are you going to pick people up then? What, you're going to land in combat? You're going to get out. This one's going to take shots.
That's why it's so heavily armored. That's the point.
All right. I thought it was to take shots so it can pick someone up, but okay. Again, it's only a small ship. It would take a few shots while it's the drone's doing its thing. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm pipe dreaming. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. All tangled here in cables. Right. What else is there? There is the Polaris, Medical Terrapin, Intrepid, and I feel like I'm missing something. Is there another one?
There's new Hornets.
Oh, and the Hornets.
So yeah, the new Hornets.
Variants, yeah.
I don't know if we've got any photos of those, but because again, I'm just using Reddit's for photos. But I did find the Ghost variant a little lackluster, a little smooth, if that makes sense. The tracker.
So I've not actually looked at the Hornets yet. So this is going. If you can find a picture of them, this is going to be a first look for me.
I did a video on them. I can always pop up the video and go through them. That's probably what I'm going to have to do because I can't find them. All right, so I'll pop up my video and we'll skip to where I was up to using all my weird feed because this is everyone jumps on this, so it's got a little bit of everything on it. It'll be our channel. No, wrong one. Oh.
So I have an issue with the Hornets.
Yep.
And it really is as simple as I don't like the idea of, and I know this is an argument that people have heard over and over and over again, but I really don't like the idea of people spending real world money on a ship when the game isn't even out yet, and there's already power creep. And a Mark II version of these ships coming out before we even got to enjoy Mark I's.
But I think that's a part of
to me.
I think that's a process of development though too, because they're so far behind they had to remake them. The one thing about the tracker I'll point out is it's got like a camera or sensor on the chin. Other than that, remember it used to have a thing on the bottom that's gone completely, and it's just got the sensor on top. So my thought process might be is if it has a camera feed, you know, that it might be able to literally take photos and also possibly send video back to another ship in real time. So, you know, like the command center type stuff. So it can.
My hope is that what I would prefer CIG to do, rather than just bringing out a Mark II of a ship and just giving it more stats of what the Mark I, like better stats compared to what the Mark I has.
I don't
rework. I don't mind the idea of them bringing out a Mark II, and maybe it's a slight variation of the Mark I. So like it's not necessarily a case of one is better than the other. It's just they work slightly differently, right?
It felt a little bit like a money grab. You know what I mean? Like because
100%.
I bought this tracker that never ever really got its gameplay. Oh, it's still going to get its gameplay, but we've made a better variant of it now. So give me money. Like it just.
So why would you use the first one? Right?
Exactly.
Like that's my issue.
Yeah.
I think the thing they had was they'd already redesigned it for the F7A for Squadron 42.
Yeah.
And they'd been sat on that for how many years? What, like 6-7 years ago they did this?
Yep.
So it very much seems that it was wanting to get it out and phase out this old aging model, and then someone jumping on it and going, oh, there's a way we can make money with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
it's
right
what it seems
for
like to me, at least.
Yeah.
So I was actually hoping that there was some kind of camera on it, but I kind of looked through it and there wasn't. So yeah, I kind of did that live. My first impressions as I went through it. The other thing that kind of surprised me about the Ghost, and if I skip forward to that, the thing that really kind of, do you remember how it had that special exhaust thing? So it actually had a different engine on the back.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that. It is literally like, so essentially it's black and red paint job where the tracker is white and red, and the tracker used to have like a blue-green thing, and that's completely gone now. The engine's exactly the same on this. The only thing you'll notice is if I go to the above view, because I do that in a little bit, is it essentially has these pipes that go down the back end of the engine. So they've kind of put the exhaust on the top now, but not actually given it the different engine at the back. I think it really, really, really needs a different engine.
Well, you could. I think there's another way to look at it. You could also look at that from the perspective that maybe that's a really big sort of cooling structure to actually
It's got a lot
keep
of
the emissions coming out of the engine cooler, so you don't show up as
yeah,
much as they are.
it's got a lot of intakes, so there's extra intakes and extra outtakes, but they've also added the greeble of all greebles, fins. There's extra fins on it over the other variants. Like there's a fin down here under the engine, and there's a fin over down. You can just see the little one there.
I'm not a big fan of that. If anything, that should massively increase radar cross section. So
yeah, it's
I
just
I don't really like it.
I prefer the older version where it had a different engine and stuff like that. It just feels cheap compared to what I was expecting. I just the engine would be enough to satisfy me. But again, I just don't find this as appealing as the old version. That's just me. I don't know. I think they're gonna. I think the tracker will bear fruit in time, and I think this will bear fruit in time once you realize it's got a much smaller signature and stuff like that. I just don't think it's going to sell well at the moment for the game that we have right now. I don't see it. Right. So
yeah,
so
again, I think it's an example of a ship or ships that are
Mm.
probably coming too soon. Right.
Yeah.
Like we need more solid combat gameplay.
Yeah.
We need better scanning, we need better radar, we need better stealth gameplay. And
what I'd really sorry, I'll just cut you off.
No, it's fine. Go on.
What I'd really like to see with these two is they do, between the tracker and the Ghost, they do actually complement each other very well. You know, and we see that in real life with kind of air combat these days. You've got your big airborne early warning aircraft. You know, there's huge radars on them. They'll sit 200 nautical miles ish behind the front line, and they will see everything. And then they'll feed all that data through to your frontline stuff, your stealth fighters, your Hornet Ghosts.
Yeah. Okay.
So they actually get that information through, and we'll see that. And you know, it is a very sort of complementary relationship. And in fact, when you're looking at that kind of thing, you're looking at that across all ships. So, you know, you'll have your Hornet tracker feeding information through to your Polaris, where you've got a commander stood in the bridge telling people where to go. You're telling your Hornet Ghosts where targets are, what to shoot for. And it all kind of meshes together. And I think until we have that kind of thing, they won't really feel like they've got a whole lot of purpose.
Is there, now you've kind of said that, I wonder, is there another Hornet variant that you would do in the military lineup that there's obviously missing? Or do you think there's another ship that covers that?
Not personally. I mean, you've really got your kind of main aerial combat roles covered between those. The three you've got there. Your big heavy F7A, your stealthy Ghost, and your kind of big eyes tracker.
Because we do have other variants. Like we've got that Razor stealth variant as well. But there isn't anything that really comes close to I guess the Terrapin would be the closest to the tracker, wouldn't it?
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The only other way to think is maybe you've got a big capital ship with a huge, powerful radar that could do a similar job.
Yeah, I expect that's going to be a thing. When you were talking about AWACS, it's only a matter of time, I think, before we get something like that. It's just I don't think it would be received that well right now until that kind of gameplay is actually in.
Yeah. Well, there's I don't know if you've been in the actual Terrapin. There are actually changes. That seat is functional now. You can kind of like go into a zoomed in first person on a remote camera now on the top of the Terrapin, and you can scan things. So scanning is definitely coming with 4.0. I just don't know what it's going to do.
It needs to be better.
We'll see.
It's been so bad for so long, man. I'm just. I want to be able to actually scan and find things, right? Like, I've always found it. Do you remember there was a patch where we could see ships like 60 kilometers out, right?
Well, I've
so to be fair, it is much better now.
Hmm.
But actually, not just like short range pinging, but long range scanning as well. I want to be able to see what traffic is doing much further out. You know.
Well, I was able to scan, and it kind of put a color border around the ship, and it gave me the components it had on board. It gave me the cargo list. It gave me the make and model of the ship and the name of the owner. So the fact that I could see all the components was pretty nuts, because then you go, oh, it's got this weak component, attack that piece. So it's coming. It's just we're not quite there yet. A patch or two, I think, when scanning gets knocked down the road a little bit more, that's gonna definitely come into the combat aspect a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be able to scan and find stuff that's not a ship directly in front of me as well, though, right? Like that's my main complaint. I don't want to be flying around just hoping I'll find something. I want to actively be able to go and find something.
Active scanning, yeah.
And I want to be given more details about the thing. Like when I see those boxes and blobs and shit in the distance, I want some information to know if it's actually worth my time flying all the way over there. You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. All right, so I think we'll take a question. So Lazarus says, with the Terrapin medical coming, how much is the Apollo going up in price? So that's another part of it. Like it's too close to the medical Terrapin that is only $30 from the medical Terrapin to the Apollo, to the first variant of the Apollo. And when you look at it like that's why I think it's got to be cheaper than a normal. It's got to be like what happened with the Antares. You know how they made it cheaper than the Scorpius? I just get the feeling it's going to be like $200, not $220.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if
you get two rooms and they have multiple beds, so you could essentially get 4 tier 2 beds on an Apollo for $30 more, and it's only 2 crew. You see where I'm going?
But you can't respawn people in a battle with an Apollo. You have to respawn them outside of the battle with an Apollo, right?
Well, if you get the Thingo has more armor. It's not as armored as the Terrapin, obviously, but again, if you had the tier 1 beds, you'd be sitting even further away, and you'd still have 2 beds.
They fill 2 different roles. You know, your Terrapin is your combat medic essentially, whereas your Apollo is kind of your back line. Hospital, really.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
And I get if anything, I think the Terrapin side of it is probably a little too highly priced.
That's what I mean. I cannot for the life of me, I can't see why you wouldn't spend $30 to get to an Apollo.
The fact of the matter is, I think the medical Terrapin is priced the way it is because of community's sentiment towards the Terrapin.
Yep.
I think that's all it is.
I think the whole reason the Terrapin is where it was because it was overhyped. Like people saw it and just gasped and said it was amazing. So it probably went from $150. We'll put it this way: it's the most expensive advanced profession starter we have. If you look at the other ones, like let's say the Prospector, $155. It's crept up by like $70. It shouldn't be that high. The Vulture came at $175, and the Vulture is technically a size above. It actually fits into the medium size or the S3 size, where the Terrapin is technically an S1. S2. It fits into the Polaris. Where the Vulture does fit into the Polaris, but it shouldn't. You kind of got to go like that, and you can get it in. But
I'll be interested to see where it comes in terms of in-game pricing.
Yeah.
Because I think that'll be the real measure.
Make it or break it.
Yeah.
Right. Friedhoff says, question, what are all the reasons to be excited about the Intrepid? Well, I think we kind of went over that one.
Yeah, we talked about it in quite...
Yeah. Alexis, thoughts on the new well, we went over that as well. Nova A42. I saw a Starlancer. Oh, that's the shit we didn't kind of talk about, the Starlancer. Anyway, I saw a Starlancer Max FOMO post on Reddit where someone is thinking about upgrading a Connie Taurus to a Starlancer Max, but they're unsure. For anyone in a similar position, would it be better to pick up a $25 Taurus to SL Max Warbond CCU now and wait and apply it till we know more during ARE, or should they get a $5 Terrapin to SCL Max Warbond CCU and get a Taurus Terrapin? I'm not a fan of the Max, right? And I kind of explained that there's a video coming that I did with Space Tomato. It'll be coming on my time Tuesday, your time Monday. So you can look for it into that video. But I am not a fan of the Max. And to put it this way, it is way too big. Put it this way, the Caterpillar is only roughly $30 more, and it does twice as much cargo. And all that ship offers is half the cargo, but it can go further. And that makes it a niche combat cargo vehicle. And it's just not going to be generally as good. I would take more cargo over more distance. And let's be honest, if a Caterpillar is fairly long distance anyway, it just means it's going to be a few more jumps. So essentially, all you're going to get out of Starlancer Max is smaller cargo jobs that have to go further, that take up more of your time, and not as... So you're always going to be traveling those further distances to justify its existence. So I don't want that. It sounds worse in every conceivable way.
Riot in chat actually broaches an interesting question. Can't it take the larger boxes? Because that's an issue that I've noticed with the hauling missions. They tend to give you a lot of ASC boxes for like the, I think it's the medium-sized missions. But although like some ships, you have the right amount of SCU available in the ship, because of the specific boxes they give you, you can't actually stack them high enough, right, to utilize that SCU.
But there's also other ships around there, like the Hercules series. They're a little bit more, but they carry, like the Ironclad's another example. The Ironclad is like essentially $100 more, but like it's a giant square room. You know, the Hull B is there as well. Like, and I know I'm going $100 or a $200 more, but they're just so much better at what they do. We're talking about a ship that's the size of a essentially a 600i or the Caterpillar, but that whole top deck, the bigger of the two decks, because you think about it, it's almost like a trapezoid. That's the living quarter areas, and it's got double beds and 3 elevators within 20 meters of each other. The 2 elevators at the back make no sense.
Can I suggest something though? Can I suggest that that's just Misk's shtick, and they're just...
It's a variant. That whole ship was built for the build, and it's the one that we haven't seen. The TAC, that also doesn't make sense because it's a long range. Like so take the Redeemer and make it go even further in range. I'd rather have 2 Redeemers because I got redundancy then, and they're like half the size, so they're harder to shoot. The bigger a ship, the easier it is to shoot.
I think there's some value in the Max that we haven't covered in the ease and time for loading it. I mean, it's like the thing is built around taking 32.
Sorry, have you seen the Caterpillar and all the doors, and it's got 2 tractor beams on it? There are no tractor beams on the Max.
It's different. So what I'm saying is, in the Caterpillar, sure, you've got 8 SU boxes, 16 SU boxes, but you have to put them in each compartment and stack them up and play all that cargo Tetris. In the Starlancer Max, you can just throw some 32 SU containers in 2 minutes and be done with it. And I think there's some value to be seen there in the time.
Pick another cargo ship.
It's not for me, but it's there.
What's the largest size box you can put in the Caterpillar?
I thought you could put 32s, but maybe I'm wrong.
No,
I'm not sure.
You can't.
You can't get 32s in. You can.
Then I guess it's 16 then.
Yeah, and there aren't. And really, is there anything else that size that can take 32 SU containers?
Well, look, I'll give you that then. Well, the C1 can take 32 SU containers, but the point I'm trying to make is take another cargo ship like the Taurus. There's another example, right? That's cheaper and it does almost as much cargo as well. Like it's only just below it. I think it's like 190, and this is like 224. And again, it's like $100 cheaper. As a cargo ship, it fails because you are buying all these living quarters that just don't make no sense.
I think the point you're not taking into account, though, and I'll use my friend V as a great example. V doesn't like RSI ships. V likes MISC ships.
That's
right.
Then get a whole B then, or a whole C.
And the other thing,
as far as I'm aware, she doesn't have any of those, but she bought a Megs. I'm pretty sure.
Hey, if it speaks to you and you like it, you buy it. But I'm just talking about purely on paper, and I'm talking purely from gameplay terms. It just does not add up.
Yeah, but not everybody pulls out an Excel spreadsheet for deciding what ships they want to buy. Some people buy them because they think they look cool.
Well, that's a part of my job, right? And I don't hate on a lot of things, right? I really don't. A lot of people call me a white knight a lot. But when I see something that is kind of badly designed, I have to call it out. And it just does not add up. It just doesn't. This thing was made for the build, and then they made 2 other variants. And again, when half the ship, like more than half the ship, is just living quarters, they had to put double beds in and 2 elevators to fill the thing out. We've never seen double beds in every single living quarters.
So if it has such a large living quarters, that suggests to me that it's a longer range cargo ship.
Yes,
right?
And that's what I was explaining. I said it's designed for longer range, but it don't add up because, again, you're just taking missions that take more time, but you want more cargo to go that distance. And again, all it means is just stopping and refueling as frequently.
If you're going somewhere like out in the sticks, then generally the goods that you're taking out are going to be more valuable, right? You would imagine.
I think the only advantage you'd have over a whole C or a whole B is that you can land.
How much more maneuverable is it compared to a whole series ship?
I haven't tested it, to be honest, when it comes to maneuverability, but it definitely would be more
maneuverable. Because thinking with my pirate brain, you know, you might be able to get out of situations with the Star-Lancer that you can't get out of with the whole series ship.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. I don't know. I just think there are better options around that area. Again, it'll show itself in time.
I think in a justification for having such a huge living quarters as well, you know, you've got a crew on this cargo ship. Naturally, you're going to make your way around lots of different places. Yeah, if you're not in your home port, have you got somewhere to stay? Have you got somewhere to sleep?
Yeah. Well, again,
I think that's something worth considering as well.
The whole sea has more cargo. Like, it's only slightly more expensive, and it also has way more cargo. It has more cargo than the Caterpillar even, and that's not hard to load and unload, and it's all internalized. So I just think there's better options than it.
There's quite a few people in chat talking about you know, with the Star-Lancer, then the cargo is shielded. From, again, putting my pirate hat on for a second, I'm trying not to shoot the cargo, so I don't think that actually is as big of a deal or big of an issue as I think some people might think.
Yeah, if you're
pirates are not going to want to destroy that cargo, right?
Yeah. Again, that's why we're kind of moving to that time to disable thing, isn't it? So
yeah.
Look, I could be completely off the mark, but my instincts tell me that it's a bad buy. Right, and the TAC tells me it's a bad buy. And they were my initial reactions when I was at CitizenCon, sitting on the floor, and they haven't changed. And when I went and talked to the military guys, they kind of backed me up on the TAC. They said it kind of doesn't make sense where it's at, and I've talked to 3 of them now. The cut.
I got to ask, how often do you see MISC ships being flown in Star Citizen actually in the game?
Not as much as They are more of a ready. I totally give you that. Especially
I don't think I've seen a freelancer in years. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like it's so strange. It
would be a better explorer actually. Sorry, first time chatter Captain Walder said TAC should really be an explorer. If they made a Star-Lancer, and I just want to point this out too. The Star-Lancer Max should be a Star-Lancer, and they should actually make a Max variant and cannibalize half the living quarters upstairs and put cargo upstairs. That would be the Max. The default Star-Lancer or the Star-Lancer Max is not a Max. It's just a Star-Lancer.
I genuinely could see. I'm surprised they didn't go for an Explorer variant of the Star-Lancer. Like, it just seems like the right ship for it.
Very suitable, yeah.
Well, John Crew and Ben Curtis did say other variants. So they've even hinted at other ones coming down the line. So yeah. I don't know. I was a bit disappointed. You know, and then I kicked the Hornet's nest when I said, does that mean the Build and the Galaxy are going to be the first two ships that we get are in the same size class that do the same thing? And then he went, well, we never sold the module for the Galaxy, and well, that kicked the Hornet's nest.
Oh, that drama, dude! I forgot about that.
That was my fault
already.
Yeah, so. And then on the next day, I get on and I'm like, sorry for the chaos, John. My bad.
The worst bit was I saw people start picking on Ben Curtis. I was like, why are you throwing him in under the bus? He didn't even say anything.
Excuse me. I honestly think
that whole drama, honestly, I feel just got completely blown out of proportion.
With the manufacturing, right? It doesn't necessarily need to build buildings, and I think personally this is what I think they should do with the Galaxy, and they probably won't because they've said it's going to do buildings, so feel free to throw this away. But I think it would be kind of cool is instead of building buildings, I think it should build vehicles and ships. It's got the little hangar on the back, so you could literally pop out smaller vehicles like the Pisces and that into the back. And the other two variants, the cargo and the medical, have the elevator, so you could have them deploy the vehicles to the ground. So a ship that builds vehicles would be kind of cool.
I could see that, dude. I could see a Galaxy just like parked on the edge of a battle, right? And it starts pooping out the
like storms and stuff. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say the military battle walkers. It's like the scene out of the Matrix where they all just come charging.
I was thinking little grey cat buggies, but that works too.
Yeah. Well, that would be cool. Like instead of like people talked about a Titan suit transporter. No, don't transport them. Just build them on the spot. Out they come.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd struggle to see them, CIG, letting it build ships. I imagine that would be something they'd really sort of contain to like your big ground-based installations and your really big expensive capitals like the Pioneer.
Well, chances are the Crucible's going to be able to do that now too, by the way, build ships. So the funny thing is, instead of it leaning on the build, it would be leaning on the Crucible. I don't know. We'll have to see. I honestly think having two ships that do the same thing, and this is the other thing that came out in the conversation, they confirmed that modular is not as strong as variant. So even now the build is out, you wouldn't want the Galaxy anymore because the build's going to be better. So yeah, I don't know how else to put that. Oh yeah, the build for me is the variant to buy of that thing if you're into it. So yeah. All right. What are we up to? That was also my question. No. Do you expect a surprise from this year's AIE? All right. Let's float this one because the Anvil big ship, I think we'll call it, is the rumor that we get every year. But this year, Anvil is the last day of the sale, so it's.
Don't do me like this, dude. I'm an Anvil fanboy.
I am too. I like Anvil. I'll tell you this though. I've heard from people that have talked to me, because people talk to me, as I know people talk to you. What I'm hearing isn't an Anvil variant of a known ship. Kind of think Carrack Privateer or Kraken Privateer. And if you think about the sizes of ships that Anvil currently have, that means it's a Carrack or a Liberator. And I lean more towards Liberator. And knowing that we had the original Liberator that did both vehicles and ships, and then they brought out the Ironclad Assault that did all the vehicles, I would assume if it's a Liberator variant, it would do all ships. I like that idea. Knowing we're going to Pyro as well. And
I don't know. I just want something with lots of guns, dude. I don't know. I've tried to avoid kind of thinking about like theory crafting. I'm not that much of a theory crafter, to be honest. I'm a little bit autistic. I'm only really good at like looking at the things directly in front of me. Yeah, well, I don't know.
And I'll add one other thing. Laming, are you still there? You're not there. That's okay. I think he's there. So there was stuff they were noticing on the website. One of the things they noticed was the Orion and the Carrack had updated web pages. Why would they be updating the Carrack web page? Something wasn't coming. So I almost hearing stuff about the Liberator. I'm hearing there's a variant, and then the website's being changed. So I don't know. I'm really getting confused. Is it a Liberator? Is it a Carrack? Is it totally smoke in the air? So at this point, I'm kind of
Carrack Mark II, dude.
Well, again, could you? What would you turn the Carrack into if it wasn't an Explorer?
Just strap more guns onto it, dude.
What I mean.
What could go wrong?
It could literally just be a combat Carrack. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I'd be as a variant, I would actually be down for a combat Carrack. And at the end of the day, I honestly, I'm pretty chilled out. Like the Mark II debacle, I don't like the idea of there being Mark II ships, right? But what I'm okay with are variants, right? Where they take an existing ship and they just make it different and fill a different role. Because at the end of the day, I accepted a while ago that CIG need to get through their backlog of ships, and they can't keep creating brand new ships if they want to get through this backlog. So yeah, if they want to bring out a combat Carrack, I'm fine with this.
I think because of their naming stupidity, it must be called Carrack Liberator. Sorry, because if you know what I'm talking about, so they've got the Valkyrie Liberator, they've actually got a Liberator, and I think there's another ship called something Liberator as well. So they need to have Carrack Liberator. Just they call too many things Liberator when it comes to Anvil, but yeah. Right. Is there anything you guys want to add to that? Is it Piggles? You've been very mysteriously silent.
I don't really have an opinion, to be honest. I've put zero thought into it, and yeah, that covers me.
All right. What we're up to? I have not been ticking questions. That was from Salts, that one. Better tick that one. Sorry, where I'm up to. Swiss Knight Rider says question. Guardian and AIE lease concept. Greetings from Waltz Catsy from your Fix My Fleet video. Oh, hey Waltz, nice to see you. I can give you my response, or I'll let you guys go first.
Yeah, I think so.
Piggles? Guardian?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the files, but if it'll be there, there'll be a trace of it in the file.
It is in there. It is in there. And there's a variant as well.
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised to see it in that case, either in Holoviewer or normal form.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't had a chance to dig through, but
and
I'm sure a quick look would be able to confirm whether it's flyable or Holoviewer.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I wouldn't be surprised if it is straight to flyable. And I know that they are bringing out a lot of ships all at the same time. But the only reason I say that is because of where their finances are this year. And they have to have a good IAE this year. They don't have a choice.
So I'll make it real simple. I don't think it's coming at AIE. I think it's coming in December, like the Santucky Eye and the Mole. I think it is the 4.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the 4.0 patch. And if you go back to the silhouette video, hang on, I've got an image here somewhere, just bear with me. Downloads, I had it saved here somewhere, or is it this one? And this one here. So if I flick this back over, this is the variant. That's why it was in the yellow one and it was in this one.
Okay.
So in the files, this is called a Guardian. It's QI, so it's either Chi or Quai, right? But you'll notice also that it looks like there's a bit of a fin there, and you'll notice there's no guns. That's a racing variant, because Mirai's doctrine essentially is combat and racing, or combat. They call it performance, but it's combat and racing.
They do need to bring out more larger racing ships, because
that's not large, by the way. You got to remember it's wings. You cut the wings off. This is only a small ship.
Yeah, I get that. But if it's a racing ship, that's large, dude. Like, you have to think about the actual size of the overall ship, wingtip to wingtip, right? But they do need to, because I always thought that after they brought out the M50 and the Razor, the 350R always seemed so strange to me.
Well, they're gonna have those bigger ships. They've actually talked about that's in lore. You know, there's literally a Mercury. There's a Mercury Star-Runner that's a racer. That's a large ship. So,
yeah, because I could see something like the Dakar Rally, right? But more like you need a racing ship that you have amenities on to support yourself.
Like an endurance racer.
Well, you know when
exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah.
You know when the Zeus ST leaked at CitizenCon last year? That's also in the files, by the way, as is the E1. right? And they both turn out to be passenger transport, but we'll get onto that in a minute. I thought the Zeus ST at first might be a racer, and I got absolutely scolded. No one's going to make a medium racer. Absolutely, they're going to do that because it's long distance endurance. It allows you to go multiple systems.
Daft Digit just said in chat, why would you want a large racing ship with no guns? For the same reason that there are yachts IRL that literally race across the entire globe. Yeah. Like, you still need to take a shit, you need to eat food, and you need to sleep.
I do think they do need
there are
guns.
Different types of races. Not every race is a Formula 1 race, right?
I do think there will be ones that need guns, though, because there'll be natural dangers that you have to shoot off, like the Tusken Raiders type of thing from Star Wars.
Speaking of your large racing ships, there definitely is, even if small, a market for that stuff. I know I've taken an M2 around some of the race courses with a bunch of other people also doing it just for the fun of it, because who takes such a huge ship racing?
Way back in the day, we used to take Starfarers and run them, do figure 8 races around Port Alice. It was like, and they had the most insane slide that you could do. We saw 890 jumps going around racetracks. You can race everything, and they literally said there will be racing in every size class. But I think when you get to, say, some of the bigger ones, like, say, a javelin, it will just be a javelin. I don't know where it's going to top out, but I can totally see at least a Constellation-sized ship that's a racer that like from one side of the universe to the other, like where they literally said way back when, just to visit every system in the game, so to visit every 100 systems would take 22 days. So I can then see a race that's literally from one side of the universe to the other. And then there's people.
Oh, for sure.
You go through an unlawful system and you need to shoot things off. Think about all those episodes of all the sci-fi shows. They always have that race episode, and it's like, oh, I've got to modulate the shields while you fly, even though you're the shit flyer. Like Star Trek, Stargate, like Star Wars, like they all had that kind of racing thing going at one point. So it's going to happen. And when I thought about the Zeus ST, having 3 people in it, if you're racing for, say, 8 hours, you're going to want to rotate people through, because you're not going to be able to continually race for 8 hours. It's just too much. So
somebody in chat said, my only concern with races is that big is their application as missiles. That doesn't bother me at all, because at the end of the day, once engineering and Maelstrom is in, it's I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. And at the end of the day, they're going to be expensive. The larger the ship, the more expensive they are, right? So people probably aren't going to want to smash them up.
The current sort of ship per missile thing at the moment is more of a product of server performance, really, than actual, just flying into things.
And they talked about racing ships navigating jump points and getting more and fuel efficient routes, because you could automatically fly if you had someone's pattern as well. So you don't need a gun in a jump point. That your whole job could be buy this, and all I do is navigate jump points to get the efficiency down, so people buy my automated route. Yeah. All right. What's the next one? Next question. Where are we up to? Do you think that the Intrepid's release might coincide with the same price adjustments to other starter ships? For example, the Titan's price was previously 55 to 60. It makes me think that the Intrepid's going to be cheaper than we think. I'm starting to put it under the Avenger now, so I'm thinking like 55. Well, with the Cutter, what was the Cutter? Cutter was 50.
Dude, if it's more than 55, then
it's dead on arrival.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I earlier in the week was saying 75 to 85, because that was between the Nomad and that, but now it's actually out, and I've had a chance to look around it. It does push it below the Avenger for me, and I think it's got to be like 55. If it's more, but difficult spot too, because it's bigger than other ships. I'm still thinking I want it to be 55, but I've got a sneaky suspicion it's going to be 75 to 85.
The thing that frustrates me about this ship as well is that its best role, right, is box moving, which I guess maybe it's to try and, for the people who like the hauling missions, right? Because I hope it's not people who want to just go do general box missions, right? Because those are so screwed. It feels like every single day I talk to somebody, they're complaining about the fact that the box missions are broken, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like if this is a start, my point is if this is a starter ship, right? They should really be fixing the gameplay around the starter ship that they're trying to implement, right? Like that kind of makes sense.
Do you think it's more of a push for hauling rather than box delivery?
Yeah, I do, because like how many, like what size? It's only 8th size, 8th SU boxes, right? For the
You
box
could
missions,
you could technically put
But you just
S2
get a
size
bunch of
boxes.
them.
Yeah, the rectangular
Yeah.
S2s. You could put 4 of those on.
But even then, like you have to bear in mind that say CIG do turn around and sell this as the hauling starter ship, right? Well, right now, people who are brand new to the game tend to lean towards just doing, because bear in mind they don't have any reputation. There's only a couple of missions available in their contract manager.
Yeah.
They lean into doing stuff with boxes, right? So they see this DHL delivery mission, they go, they just bought their Intrepid, and then the mission's broken. Right? That's the.
I've just realized something. The 315p is $65, and it because of its space, it's 12 SCU of cargo, and that can take the 4 SCU boxes. You'd have 2 of them and then an S2.
And it has the tractor, right?
It's got the tractor. It's got to be less than that. It has. So that means it's got to be 55, or it's just dead on arrival. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. That does change it a bit for me. If it is 55, now I don't know if they're smart enough to make it 55, because marketing sometimes get a bit aggressive. But if it's 55, I could kind of start to justify that.
Yeah, it has to be an actual entry level ship.
Yeah. Well, it's the lowest for what was the Rambler? The Rambler was 60, wasn't it?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it was 60. Someone will correct me in chat. Yeah, maybe it's 60 then. Maybe it's equal to the Rambler. I don't know. The Rambler was so this is the really weird thing. The Rambler is technically an advanced starter, while the Scout and the Cutter are regular starters. It crossed the border, so to speak. So yeah, be interested. Yeah, so I kind of want to know where the if someone could find out the prices for us and just post them in chat for the Cutter Rambler and the 315p. I know it's 65, so yeah, and the Cutter I think would be the other one.
As time goes on, the 315p seems to be way more appetizing.
I think the only problem with the 315p is the fixed tractor beam. It'd be somehow cooler if it could affect its own cargo, because it can't. It can grab things and pull it out, but then you've got to get out and manually put it in. It's almost like the tractor beam needs to be on the back, not on the front. Yeah. Well, if the Rambler's 55, then definitely it'll be 55 to 60 for this thing. So yeah. And the Saulian was 70. But yeah, the Saulian is a lot like the Avenger, but I actually prefer
Alien text, right?
Yeah, but the Avenger, because it's got its cargo bays all together, it can also take S4 boxes, where that thing is 6 single 1 SCU boxes, and that's what kills it. Because you've got to take whatever the contents is and break it into a smaller box every time. Because that's going to be a thing. Like, a lot of people don't realize that if you have 8 SCU cargo box and you've got 8 individual boxes, you're gonna have to break them up and put them in. And what if you get something that's really big that just can't physically go in a smaller box? You can't carry it. It's just that simple. So again, that's my main problem with the Zeus to the Freelancer Max. The Freelancer Max is better every single way on paper. So yeah. Jag Macken says, is it likely that the Intrepid will have variants, and if so, what would they be? I think we kind of covered this, but what did we kind of land on? Bounty hunter, data running,
data
bombing. There was one, and a cargo and potential. I think that's kind of the 4 I'd possibly consider. Knowing Crusader's mantra, I don't think you could kind of really go outside that too much. Piggles, anything you?
I think we mentioned that kind of sniperish sort of version as well.
Yeah, we did too. Space Tech, nice to see you. Has the early release of ships under the PTU taken some of the wind out of AIE for you? I always look forward to those individual days to see the new ship spread out over the days. Moist?
Sorry, what was the...
Essentially releasing the ships early, has it sucked the fun wind out of the sails?
Yeah, for me it has. Yeah. And it's like I touched on earlier that, you know, if they're going to do this, I feel like they need to release the Q&A early, right? Because I think a big thing for me is that when it's not necessarily, and the Intrepid's a great example, when it's not necessarily received that well because there's no context to the ship, it's a bummer. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the energy gets sucked out the room a little bit.
Yep. I think also not having the sale pages for context is kind of a little bit. I don't know. I get the feeling they're not going to do this again because of how negatively the Intrepid was received. It's just the feeling I get. So yeah. What about you, Piggles?
I'm a little on the other side. I get what you mean by them maybe not wanting to do it again. But yeah, personally, I've spent the past 6 years data mining everything, so seeing stuff about this stage isn't new for me.
Yeah.
But what I do like is the fact that they're able to get this stuff out earlier, get the community feedback, and iron out any kinks before they then go and sell it. And you know, if you don't want to see this stuff before IE, you're more than welcome to not look at it. That's entirely within your court. But yeah, my general impression is I like this stuff being a little earlier because it's that extra time before you then go and put a price tag on something.
I don't really like that take. And the reason I say that is because it's really hard to not look when every single post on Reddit and Spectrum is about the thing.
Yeah, especially
right? It's like you're basically telling somebody to stop engaging with the Star Citizen community for however long until it's
over, I see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, it's it's a bit hard. I don't know. It'd be really interesting because the other thing is I don't think the casual people are here yet. I think the casual people rock up at AIE, so it's not being spoiled for them. I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of. I guess they'll get the data on that and they'll reevaluate whether it's worth doing again or not. So I guess next year we'll know if it was worth it or not. That's the only thing I can kind of think of. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, naturally your people posting on Reddit an hour after it's dropped on the PTU are naturally going to be your kind of more hardcore people.
Yeah, exactly. The Asala data running and smuggler versions of the Intrepid. Yeah, the smuggler was the other one we talked about as well. I think it does naturally with the speed of Crusader ships leading towards smuggling. Like a small amount of illegal stuff, I think would be very valuable for this ship to do. P-Jack says, why not just link switches to ship doors in the Moby glass? Seems, well, that's kind of what I said. He's essentially saying, seems like a no-brainer instead of trying to use the magnifying glass to find it. Yeah, I think especially the bigger ships.
We're talking about exterior doors, right?
Yeah, like we were talking on the Polaris where there's no switch. And
they talked about that. They talked about that years ago, right? And that's something they want to do.
Yeah, they want the visceral stuff, but when it's really big, obviously, I think just the bigger ones need a Moby glass option. Even just and we have the technology now where you have a key in your pocket and it literally unlocks the car door when you approach. You know, so why can't it just have a Moby glass up that
but
the elevator
it's a video game. Yeah. Look, I really don't like this mindset of convenience because if with this mindset you end up with the group finder in World of Warcraft and then your entire open world dies because nobody ever leaves the city, right? I think we have to be really careful about asking for convenience. I want, if we wanted convenience, we would never fly a ship, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So
it's a tough one. All right, we're down to like about 6 questions, guys, and we've got about an hour and 15 minutes left. So if you want to get a question in, get it in because we're going to run out for sure. Destroy talking to Luna Maria. I am no OG, but also waiting to see the rework before buying a 600i. Question for you: I have never seen the inside of a Reclaimer yet. Can I tour? Okay, so he's asking Luna Maria if she can tour a Reclaimer. I hope she helped him out. TJ,
I hope so. The inside of the Reclaimer is awesome, dude. You'll love it.
Very much like the Nostromo. It's one of the reasons I like it so much because it gives me the
Well,
aliens.
I
Like
forget the
serious
guy's
alien
name,
vibes.
but one of the guys who designed it worked on Alien Isolation, right? If you remember, he always wore the Nostromo baseball cap.
He did,
I think
yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. He's the guy that also made the Avenger, believe it or not, as well.
Yeah.
The Penguin. They do need to put that Penguin look on another ship somewhere. Maybe.
I agree. I love the texture of the outside of the Avenger.
Well, a lot of people forget.
Very shuttle.
A lot of people forget the Avengers an advanced starter, so we don't have an an Aegis starter. So there is room there for an Aurora level Aegis ship, and maybe that'll go down the Penguin route. Oh, hello. How are you? Yep, come and help yourself. Oh, that's my cat. How the hell are you supposed to make money then? Just wish and hope it grows on trees? T-Jack, I don't know the context of your question. I don't know what he's talking about. So T-Jack, if you want to do a follow-up question to fill us in, that would be great. Hello SC says, what is the tracker for? Piggles, would you like to inform people what the Hornet tracker is for?
According to CIG, the Hornet tracker is to have a really big radar and do lots of command and control. What I'd personally like to see out of it is the ability to share that data with other ships in the fleet, and I'm fairly certain other people would share that desire as well.
Do you think that's
kind of like...
I was just going to ask you real quick. Do you think that it's a camera or a sensor on the chin? Because I heard people go backwards and forwards on both. You know more of the military stuff than I. What would it be?
The thing that it would surprise me if it's just another sensor because you've already got that massive radar dish on the top, right?
True.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it's something like a Leot's camera or a targeting pod or something where you've got this really big or really powerful optical telescope where you can kind of zoom in on your like ground locations, for example,
almost like an
fleet.
infrared or something camera, so it can detect things, or
not quite an infrared camera, but just kind of like intel gathering. You know, you see not so much, you see kind of images from spy satellites that you kind of have a bird's eye view of something on the ground going.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me if
reconnaissance,
if it was intended. Yeah, kind of something like that. Okay. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But given how I think it's got such a massive radar signature from having the huge radar, it would. I don't know. It strikes me as a little odd to have it. Maybe it's just something that you can. Maybe it's just something for flair. I don't know, but.
Moist, you were going to say, sorry?
No, I was just going to use like a real world comparison. I kind of view the tracker as like the F-35 a little bit, as in it has less weapons than, for example, an F-15, right?
Yeah. It's only got 2 guns on it.
Yeah, but as Piggle said, it allows you to send targets to other members of your fleet, right? Where the rest of the fleet can't get into range to target paint or whatever. That's potentially what that vehicle could do.
Yeah. All right. What is the track for? Nova A42 says, speaking of expensive profession starters and the Terrapin being the most expensive at 220, the Vulcan was in concept at 200. Yeah, it probably will work out to be more expensive. My question is, what might the flyable price of the Vulcan be? Probably 10 to 20%, so 220 to 240. Could it become the most expensive profession starter? Yes, it could. But also, if you put the Terrapin next to the Vulcan's almost twice the size. Actually, I can almost justify the Vulcan's price just from. Give me a second, I'll cut it over here.
That's a ship I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to type jacks with you sitting on my hand? It's not fun, mate. Come on. Yeah. Move over. Like, it's a mouse. You're meant to be scared of it. Vulcan.
Did you ever play Free Space 2?
I did not, but I've heard a lot of people tell me I need to go play it. So there you go. Look, that can you justify them being the same price? Roughly? Like 220 on the left and 200 on the right, but the one on the right's not out yet. It's literally double the length.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Like that's why it gets scary. This is so damn overpriced. It's ridiculous. Yeah. This is for one person technically with the bed and that. That's 2 people and 3 drones.
again, dude, they're selling the sentiment, right? Like
they sold the
there
look.
are a lot of ships. Yeah, there are a lot of ships.
Yep.
That CIG sell that are ridiculously priced. Right.
Yep. Perseus.
Like look at any of the alien ships.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, that I think that answers your question, Nova A42. That I can totally justify the Vulcan being more expensive than the Terrapin because the Terrapin is damn too expensive. I think realistically the Terrapin at best is $180. It's not 220. And that,
yeah, 220 is too expensive. Yeah,
that's essentially putting it $5 over the Vulture. But like just to, for shits and giggles, put the Vulture in here and you go, what? That's 175. This is 220. Like and this is technically a medium. This is a medium, and this is a small. It is the most overpriced ship, probably besides the Eclipse in the entire game. The Eclipse is probably still the worst because that thing's $300 dues.
Yeah, I was about to say, Friedolf just said what I was thinking. To be fair, most of the Vulture is just two big arms, right? The actual
agreed. Yeah, it's probably about the same
living
size.
spaces.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll give you that. But yeah, this is like a pancake though. So yeah. Ironically, the Eclipse is harder to fit in the Polaris than the Terrapin is, but because of its girth. So yeah. All right, I hope that answers your question there. Right. We're down to our last 6 questions again. We got a couple more coming in, but that was it. Do you think the Pioneer will have a price bump due to the information that was shared at CitizenCon? And that was by Eaton Minkowski. I think I butchered his last name, but do you expect a price increase for the Pioneer?
I mean, I don't really know.
You were sitting next to me at CitizenCon. You saw the presentation. Don't give me
that
bullshit.
I saw it. I was sat next to you. I just. What was it originally? It's like what, like $1,000, right?
It's 850.
800. Oh yeah. Price increase then. I thought it was much more expensive than
and it's increasing in 20% in size.
Yeah, definitely.
And it got all this new functionality like going underground and all that shit. Yeah, I've been umming and ahhing about picking it up beforehand because I do think personally it's going to go up in price. What about you, Moist? Do you think it's going up, or do you think they're going to be nice and leave it where it is?
It's absolutely going up in price. There are so many space dads that want that ship, dude.
Yeah. And it's just so you know, straight after CitizenCon, they were going for like with 10 years insurance, they were going for $2,000. I don't think it's going to $2,000, but I think it may go over 1,000. Or if they're really evil, just so you can't get LTI, they'll make it like 950. So
I do think that CIG just throws some numbers into a hat and then just plucks them out.
The other thing
I don't know.
The other thing I really learned, and the thing that I would stress, that if you even remotely think of a Pioneer, and this is me doing my due diligence, right, is Ben Curtis was telling me he was at, because this was we talked to them the day after CitizenCon or 2 days after CitizenCon, and he literally said, I was talking to a guy and he was telling me about his org, and he said every person in the org had a Pioneer, and he was shocked because to him, it was really obvious, you only need one Pioneer for an entire org. So if there's anyone you know in your org and you're pretty confident that you're staying in your org, don't get a Pioneer, right? Put that money somewhere else, another ship, right? Because I can tell you right now, just looking at the org that me and Argrid are in, and Echo Bit's in our org, and there's a bunch of other people. We've got 600 plus people. There's like 30 or 40 Pioneers. We are not going to need that many. Like it's just absolute bananas. So,
dude, how many people own Polarises, dude, and how many are about to own Polarises? This is what I was trying to explain to my chat the other day when people were like, I'm just a dude. I'm gonna buy a Polaris. I'm like, dude.
The only saving grace on that though is there would be an influx of players that do come into the game and they will want to join the game. But I think what I'm just gonna curve what you're saying there slightly, and you correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth. But I think we need to slow our roll, right? I don't think we need to stop buying ships, but I think we need to think about what we're buying and try to look at the org that we're in and pick up the slack, but then bring down others and stuff like that. Because we've just been buying what we like into this point. And I think now we need to kind of go, well, my friend John's got this, so I don't need this. You know, like if we all had reclaimers, it's a waste of time. If it's us three were playing together, we only need one reclaimer between the three of us, type of thing. And if we're in an org of 20 people, one reclaimer is probably going to do 20 people. You know, so look at your org size and start tailoring your fleet to your org or to your friend group, or if you're playing on your own, do the same.
I think if CIG wants to sell these big ships, now's the time they have to do it, because once engineering gameplay comes online, right, and more of the
I don't see that as a derogatory. When that came out and all the
no, that's not what I'm
posts,
saying, dude.
Oh, okay.
That's
Sorry.
not what I'm saying. You just read into that completely wrong.
All right, my bad. Sorry.
The point that I'm trying to make is that if CIG wants to sell these big ships, they have to do it now, because once that gameplay is in, people are going to realize that they can't solo these ships.
Yep.
Right. And once they realize that they can't solo these ships, they're probably not going to keep buying them. Yep. Right. So
I know you can't solo them unless you have like NPCs, but again, they're pushing the game towards friend finders and stuff like that.
Somebody needs to fucking show me where CIG talked about all these NPCs, right? Because I feel like the community CIG has not really talked about this topic
in a long time
enough.
Yep.
And in a long time. And like I actively remember Chris Roberts saying, I think it was on a 10 for the chairman, where he was talking about the fact that you would have to build relationships with these NPCs, and that's one of the ways they wanted to like limit, and you'd have to maintain those relations, right? And that's how they would limit like how many NPCs you can actually have. And they also talked about the fact that the point of the NPCs was if you normally play with a social group and one of your friends can't come online, you can fill that gap with an NPC, right? And over the years, the community has just gone on and on about the NPCs. And then, Bob's told Joe that you'll be able to do this thing with NPCs. And then Joe's gone and told Dave that you can do something else. And the community's built it into something that's now... I feel like when CIG actually do finally implement their kind of NPC tech, either it's going to end up being something that I don't want, which is people crewing entire friggin' Idrises full of NPCs. But Chris Robert was kind of adamant that he didn't want that. I think the community is going to explode when they realize that they can't.
I think they should be a supplement. So if you have a smaller ship, you can probably have 2 or 3 of them. Or if you have a bigger crew, they can fill in the gaps. But I think if you've got an entire crew of them, you'd be managing them too much. And I think that's how it should be, to deter you from saying, oh, I want a javelin full of NPCs. I don't think that'll ever be a thing. But when it comes to actually doing roles and stuff, we worked out years ago that they can fake a lot of it. So like even repairing a terminal, they can put them on timers and stuff like that. They don't actually have to be repairing them like a human does. So it's all very doable. But as you said, it comes back to what Chris Roberts wants and that gameplay. And they clearly, even since the very beginning, they are wanting that multi-crew gameplay. And you and I saw that, right, in that Polaris. And that was the first kind of really good taste of it I've had in a long time. And it's the best I've ever... You said it yourself. Yeah, and I agree with you. Best we've ever played.
I get people raise in my chat quite frequently when I talk about this topic. Well... for those of us who want to play solo, what are we supposed to do then? To which my answer is, you know what? Sometimes I wake up randomly at 3 a.m. and I come and sit at my computer and I don't want to engage with anyone, so I just play on my own.
Yeah.
But I don't expect to be able to fly around in a friggin' Idris on my own, right? And I do think it is important. Like I've had this whole conversation in insert whatever MMO here, right?
Yeah.
I do think it's actually important to have gameplay for solo players for the reason that I explained. Like not everybody, like sometimes you will have a shit day at work and you don't want to engage with people, right? And you still want to play a game, and that is okay. There needs to be gameplay for those people. But those people should set their expectations accordingly, right? That's all I'm saying.
Right, I'm
If
gonna
you
ask.
listen to
I'm
my
gonna
TED talk.
no, that's right. I'm gonna ask Piggles now because I'm interested to know what he might say nothing. Let's see, Piggles. What are you gonna say?
Um, so I've completely lost the plot. Well, we were talking about
So we're essentially talking
soloing
about
big ships, right?
NPCs and soloing big
Yeah.
ships. Is it a good thing? Is it a
So
bad thing? And solo players, etc.
naturally, you're going to have people that try.
Mm.
Yeah, that's life. It's going to happen. I don't think it's necessarily sustainable to be flying around an interest that's entirely full of NPC crew.
Mm.
Yeah, they're not going to be as
Mm.
effective as human crew, and like
Mm.
Moist Noodle said, we've you're looking at doing a lot of micromanagement at that point, and
Yeah.
it's not great. And I largely agree. You need to remember that content is meant for different groups of people. I
Mm.
play a lot of Destiny, and in that we've got raids that is meant for 6 people.
Mm.
Some of them you can solo. It'll be a very difficult job, and it'll take you hours and hours and hours to do it. But some of them can be done. But by and large, it is a 6-man activity, and there are also activities that are for solo players. They'll matchmake you with other people. You can just straight up do them solo. It's up to you. And moving between our different ship sizes is I think is what is kind of catering to that. We have you have your fighters, your constellation. Maybe you can stick a couple of gunners in there. That's kind of your solo to small group content. Whereas when you're looking at your bigger stuff like your Polaris, Idris, Javelins, that's your big group content, and it's important to remember that naturally there is going to be a divide between them.
Yeah, I've always found it kind of weird that people want to kind of come in and do everything that you can possibly do in this game, but do it alone. Because as soon as you're working with other people, that makes it harder. So therefore, that always should be the pinnacle. Working with others should always be more, big. You work together, you do a better job, you get bigger rewards. I think it undermines it if you can come in and say a javelin and basically have it all filled with NPC crew,
But
and you do a raid on your own and you take away all the rewards. It just kind of
yeah,
deepens
I
it.
think the thing to remember is it's not for everyone. Big group gameplay. Take salvaging for example.
Yeah.
If you got John on his own, he likes doing a salvage, doesn't like groups. Sure, you can just go out and
Yeah.
reclaimer, and he might be happy with that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he could matchmake just onto a salvage turret slot. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whereas your reclaimer is when you start to actually have that big group together. Maybe this guy does want to gun on a javelin, for example. You don't need to necessarily get a group together. That's what part of the whole party finder essentially should be. It's we're doing this, we need a gunner, and some guy can just jump in and have some fun in his own shooting things flying past for an hour.
Yeah, I think that's also why there's no robots in the Star Citizen universe, because they didn't want people essentially automating that shit. They wanted it supplement. Like, look at AI blades. That's a supplement. So again, I think what they are talking about with, yes, you can have some AI fill some gaps, and maybe you could get away with an AI crew on, say, a Connie, right? But I think if you go to a Polaris, maybe a couple of turret gunners, maybe one on the engineering console, but you wouldn't want them firing the torpedoes. I think they're a supplement. I think they're a gap filler. I don't think they're a I can do my entire ship. And I think
they're there to just fill what you and your group don't quite put together. Maybe you've got someone who's off for the night. That's what they really. I think that's where they'd really shine.
And the way you counteract that is they have to keep being given orders, so to speak. And if there's too many of them, all you're doing is giving orders, and so it doesn't work. So I reckon you've got a limit to. I don't know what the limit's going to be, but I reckon it's got to be almost what do you call it? Diminishing returns.
I think they said years ago as well, wouldn't they have like specific skills that they'll be better at and whatnot? So like
that's true.
It could be that they are only skilled in one area. So if you're in a dynamic situation that's changing, then they turn out to be useless when it starts changing, right? So yeah, who knows?
I'm just gonna read a question. I gotta get a tablet real quick. I got a bit of indigestion coming up. This is by Nova A42 says, does it feel like the Terrapin medic is missing jump seats for the hot pickup med team or a single medic, which is what we talked about.
Yeah,
before.
for sure. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I was really surprised we didn't see jump seats. At least one. It would make sense for me for there to be a seat for the nurse, right?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. It strikes me as quite odd, especially with a ship that's such especially seems designed to fly into a hot zone. You're not going to want to leave the controls. You're going to want to drop in, kick the nurse out, grab the casualty, and then disappear as quick as you can because it's armored, but armor's only going to take you so far. Eventually, you're going to need to get out of there.
So I kick the nurse out. You kicking the nurse out and just leaving them on the battlefield? What?
No. They're picking the casualty up and coming back.
All right, okay.
You're going to want to grab the casualty and get out of there because sure it's armored, sure it's a bit of a tank, but that's only going to get you so far. Eventually, whatever shooting you is going to make its way through.
That's why I kept coming back to the drone. I just couldn't see the pilot getting out and putting himself in harm's way to drag someone in, dump them in the bed, then go back to the pilot seat and just expect the bed to do everything. Like it just didn't add up to me.
Just to pivot slightly, I don't know if you saw what Friedolf put in chat, but he pointed out that the Cutlass Steel was $15 more than the medical Terrapin.
Well, we all know the Cutlass Steel that's probably the most egregious thing they've ever done. Again, a lot of the ships are based on pricing, and again, if you actually look at the components in the Cutlass Steel, they are very good. But they are not double the price of a Cutlass Blackwood, not in any bloody universe.
Yeah, no.
Not going to happen. There's definitely a thing where the in-game currency is way inflated in value more than it should be. It just doesn't kind of add up. I'd be really surprised to see how many Cutlass Steels they ever sold because it has to be abysmal.
I have actually met at least 2 people who purchased Cutlass Steels.
Are these those people, though, that are like Sandig that buy everything?
Yeah. That's why they bought them. Yeah.
All right. Bad Hog says, question, what do you feel the best combo of ships would be to load in a Polaris hangar? Ooh.
Combination of ships.
Yeah.
Did we say
situational. Terrapin's got to be up there for scouting, so it can kind of go.
Dragonfly Swarm.
Dragonfly. I think it'll be combat ships, to be honest with you.
It depends on your mission.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I'm going to put on what I need for the job. I'm sorry that's a pussy answer, but like,
well, again, like I can even see things like the medical Terrapin, like. We've got to get a ship in there, but we can't get it in there because of the distance. It's heatly combated. So you fly the medical Terrapin in because it's not going to make it in on its own, but then you detach it from the Polaris. It goes in, gets the person, comes back to the... Like, I could see all that. It's the situation. 100% what you said.
I don't think the medical Terrapin is a good... it does depend on the situation. That you can fit a Pisces in the cargo bay, so a CAR is probably a better idea there, right?
And also you can technically bring them back to the medical beds on the Polaris, but what if the person's like really critically injured? It would extend their life. I don't know. I could see a variation where almost every ship that fits would, like, I think the weirdest one that I could probably rule out would be, say, a Prospector. I can't see you needing to put a Prospector in a Polaris anytime soon, or a Vulture. Like, I just don't see it.
You never know. You might need to use that mining laser to mine through a hull. Like, don't forget.
Maybe.
What ship was it that got the first javelin kill? I'm pretty sure it was a mole.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Okay, maybe. I wouldn't never say never. Put it that way.
I think my answer here is similar. It really depends. The original pitch. Part of the pitch for the Polaris is. A flagship for smaller militias or even a fleet support ship. So it generally depends on the mission. And sometimes the answer might even be nothing. Yeah. You might want that hangar available to refuel, repair, and rearm other ships in the area.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something worth keeping in mind. So sure, you might set out thinking, what's the best thing I can put in this hangar? But then, another question you need to ask yourself is, what might I need to use this hangar for?
I also,
Yeah, you know, every time we have a ship with a hangar, there's always the conversation of what is the biggest thing I can fit inside of this hole,
no,
and
it should be what can I fit inside this, and why.
and I think on the second day after it was on the PTU, people were coming in. Oh, did you see the 28 Furies inside the? Yeah, but that's not necessarily a good idea because
Mm,
if you need to scramble your fighters and they're all crammed on top of each other, you can't actually scramble your fighters that quickly. You need to
mm.
give yourself space,
And as soon as
right?
the hangar's open, they're going to start getting shot. I know it's got air shields, but they're not really even going to get out before they get shot, are they?
Yeah, and Piggles was absolutely right when he said sometimes you want nothing because
Mm,
I actually ran into that situation where we brought out a ship and then we're in the Polaris and we needed
mm,
somebody else who had just gone straight to the AO to land on the
mm,
Polaris, but then there were useless ships inside the hangar,
mm.
right? So yeah.
The other one I'm going to throw out there, ironically, is actually in the screenshot, and that's the Nomad. And I think at some point, rather than the Polaris going back, you could bring supplies out to the Polaris as well. So I think,
Yeah.
ironically, some smaller cargo ships will probably be very useful, and the Nomad's probably around the
I
perfect size. I can't think of anything
I
else that carries that amount of cargo at that size.
Yeah, dude, I was talking on stream the other day that you know, I love the idea of, you know, having a crew on a Polaris, and I even said, you know, maybe we just have a day where
Mm,
we stock the Polaris with shit,
mm,
right? You know, like in the crew quarters, I think like each crew member has individual storage and
yeah.
whatnot.
Mm,
Like, so the guys bring their stuff and put their stuff into their storage, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I love the idea of just having. I
Mm,
love watching videos of like um,
mm,
British Navy or US Navy ships getting restocked by like Seahawk helicopters and stuff, dude. Like that
yeah.
shit is fascinating. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. And I kind of sit there and
Cool.
wonder how many trips would this thing have to do? Is it 4 trips, 6 trips, like things like that? So it's going to be interesting. I think there's just a lot of little things we're not seeing yet. Even thinking about
And
like how full is the Polaris going to feel when you've got all the stuff in it,
I
like what
just
you were
want to point out as
describing.
well. I know that there's somebody watching right now who's going, yeah, but you can dock to stations. Not all stations, because
Hmm.
the rest and relax stations that we have right now are the mediums or the larges. I can't quite remember.
I think it's
And
the largest. Yeah.
we're supposed to be getting like the smalls and the medium
Yeah.
at some point, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
your ability to dock and land will depend on the size of the station.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And not
And if
only
you
that,
wanna,
if you're out and about too and in a combat situation, it's just sometimes easier to have them to come to you than you go to them. And
if
you're
yep.
and
if
you're and you're more detectable because you're larger as well. So
and if you're out on patrol somewhere as
mm.
well, you might not be able to leave where you are. You might need the supplies to come to you too.
Well, again, take a Nomad. A Nomad's just going to go in and they go, oh, it's just a cargo ship. But a Polaris rocks up and they're going to go, we might need to have our guns ready. So I don't know. It's so many little details to kind of nuance over. It's kind of ridiculous. John Flick says, did we talk about the Intrepid? Yes, we did. It's a weird one, nice on the inside, and what was the only mother could love face. Also, I agree with the Guardian coming out like the Santoki eye. He then also asks, do you think the new Anvil vehicle might be a ground refueler for base building? It's round at the back, and even refuelers have. Wait, it's round at the back. Oh, he's talking. He's talking about. He's talking about this. Hang on. He's talking about. Where is it? That one. He's talking about this. I think this just might be an updated. Do you remember the Argo MCV that they showed at CitizenCon last year, where it was
Oh, this is
essentially,
Atlas platform, right?
yeah, it was the Atlas platform, but it had a
Yeah.
trailer on the back. It's still got that trailer. You can, well, okay, you guys can't see my mouse unless I go here, but you can still see the trailer part back here. I think it might still be the Argo MCV. It's just shrunk a little bit. And you also, if you count all the wheels, it's got way too many wheels compared to a normal Spartan. And if you go look and if you go look at the God, I'm not going to be able to find it now, but I'll try. Citizen. I will try. Citizen.
With that many wheels, that is for something carrying something heavy, right? Like, I could see that being full of liquid.
Oh, I got lucky. I got soda. No, that's not the one I wanted.
But it has guns, so that I don't know. That doesn't really make that much sense to me.
I wanted the image of. Of course, now I'm not going to be able to find it because a whole bunch more slides came out from this year's one. But there was one of it being loaded out of a C2. We actually used it as a thumbnail at one point, but of course now I can't damn find it. Nope, that's not going to be it. No, I'm not going to be able to find it now. It's going to be hidden. Just a space tomato. Have you talked to Keenan recently, Piggles?
Not since we messaged him while we were at CitizenCon.
Yeah, we'll have to have a game. We'll have to have a game at some point. Let's see if I can actually open this one. But yeah, there's a. It's got a lot more wheels than a normal one. Let's see if I can actually. No, these are the new. No, that's right. Yeah, you can see here. Look, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on one side, where a normal one only has 4, so 8 wheels in total. So that actually has 16 wheels. So you now go back to this and you go, yeah, that looks like about 16 wheels. So it's got a lot more wheels than a normal Spartan or Atlas platform. So I think I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, if it's some sort of logistic vehicle, I find the turret interesting.
Can I just say something else I've only literally that second noticed? Look in the background. It almost looks like it's got buildings in the background.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like all the struts and do they? Okay, let's. That doesn't have it. It seems unique to that picture. It does have guns around people around it, which means it's thingo.
No, there's definitely something behind that. It's just the smoke's really thick.
Well, it's got buildings behind the Pioneer. If I open the Pioneer, it's got the buildings there. I'm just wondering if that kind of tips the hat to what it is. Like if I open the Apollo-looking one, no buildings.
Look at the MISC one.
The salvage one. Yeah, it's got it too. Yeah, okay.
And the Hornets.
Okay.
And the Hornets as well.
Okay. Yeah. Some of them have it then, and some of them don't. Okay, I'll give you that.
I think it's just the smoke. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I was just thinking it could be something to do with buildings, but maybe not. All right. So I don't know. The only thing I can think of, unless it's just another random Atlas one, is that it's the MCV. But a military builder makes sense to me, especially if you're building turret defenses and stuff like that.
Yeah, that actually makes more sense to me for sure.
Yeah,
I could say that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I was kind of really surprised though by what happened with shields, how they're actually powered by the whole system. I thought we were going to be able to have our own shields, so I do find that kind of interesting that it's tied to the PVSP. It's very clever though. It's a very clever system. It's just not what I expected. What do we got here? We've got Survivor Rolly says, question, would you have liked to have seen a window in the Intrepid living area? Windows also missing from the Starlancer take. No, the Starlancer's got some windows. They are when you're on the turret consoles, you literally come out and they're literally right there in front of you. I think they try to limit windows because once you can see through a window, where do I put this? You then have to be able to.
They can't cull, right?
Exactly.
They can't cull outside.
Yeah.
So it's performance reasons.
Yeah, so that's why those windows are actually in the same window room as the cockpit. It's a performance thing, literally. That's why you can see the entire Javelin cockpit, and then there's some other windows downstairs, but there's not. It's just a corridor. Because again, it's easier to cull those things. You've got to remember it's a performance thing. It most hit it in one. Brutidon. Interesting name. Do you think there will be a medium cargo ship from Drake that puts in between the Cutlass and the Cat Corsair variant?
Between the what and the what and the what?
So he's saying between the Cutlass Black and the Corsair. He's wondering if there's room for another ship. Technically speaking, you're going from a medium to a large, so technically there is no room, so it would be another medium. Yeah, I think he's hinting at this ship, by the way, and I did a video on it. I don't think it's a Drake ship, and a lot of people think I'm wrong, but that's their opinion, and they're entitled to it. But I don't think this is a Drake ship. Do you want me to tell you real quickly why I don't think it's a Drake ship? Had it hinted to me by a dev that it wasn't, very heavily hinted that it wasn't. And it's got 2 wings. So as soon as you have 2 wings, you can't do false asymmetry. So think about the Corsair, how it's got 2 on one side and 1 on the other. So it's the same weight. So when it's got one big one, it's got more weight on one side than on the other. So therefore, the only way that thing can fly is vertically. As soon as it flies vertically, it's got to rotate. Once it rotates, it's too complicated for Drake. The only other ship that rotates like that is the Reliant.
Dude, from the moment I saw this, I assumed it was Slave 1 with big wings.
Yeah. Now see the.
So I think you're right.
So see the combat person down there.
Yeah.
That we also know that leads to the role of the ship. So if it's combat, it's not Misk, it's Mirai. It's even got, see the fin on the back. Oh, like the fin on the back here, just like the fins on the Reliant. At one point, me and Algra talked about it. We thought, what if it's a Reliant rework? Because the core doesn't fit the advanced. Dude. Yeah, I know.
No way.
Yeah,
I've got a friend. I don't know if you ever met Lord Holy Man, but oh my god, dude, he loves the Reliant. He would be so sad.
Yeah.
If they did the Reliant like that.
If I'm trying to, I can't see my button down here. Here we go. So the other thing is, if you zoom in, right? So imagine this giant fin here. See this big ball turret, much like on the Reliant. I think this rotates up onto the top here. See how it's almost like a shark fin, and then it's just cut off. Yeah, you got the curve there, and then it just stops. I think that rotates up to there, and the smaller one rotates down to here. That's what I think anyway, because just the way that goes up like a fin, and then it's cut off completely flat. And you got to remember at the angle that it's at, that would be flat. Going, oh, I can't even get my hand at the same angle because I'm mirrored, but you can see it's flat. I don't know. That's my thought process. I think it's essentially a big Reliant made by Mirai. Though I don't think it's the best to be a combat variant. Because again, the Reliant has issues for well, you could probably speak about that more than anyone. Moist with the have you ever gone out and done combat in the Tanner out of curiosity?
Oh yeah, but it's not in the current flight model. In the old flight model,
it's not the best, is it?
I mean, so what you were reliant on? So the best the Tana ever was during the auto gimbal meta.
Yeah.
Because the auto gimbal did all the aiming for you, and because it's so much firepower, even though because the thing to bear in mind with the Reliance is that actually they're quite big, and if you compare it to an arrow, I know it's apples and oranges as a comparison, but that's kind of the point, right? You look at an arrow head on, and it's literally such a small profile.
Yeah.
Even the Aurora, right? If you look at the Aurora head on, right, it's actually a very small profile, which is why the MR is at what I guess the LN more now is actually quite a decent combat ship.
Are you describing the Zion flight model to the human flight model? Because I think you're right. I think these will fly more like Zion ships. That's what you're alluding to. Yeah. I think it needs a more advanced flight model to, like, you know how the Zion ships are meant to move sideways very well and stuff like that, and I think that's what this will be. Essentially, Mirai and Misk are the human alien hybrid manufacturers. I did have someone when I did the video earlier in the week suggest the Zion for this, but then I went back on that earlier after I did the episode because of the curves. It can't be Zion, and it also can't be Sinu for the same reasons, because it would be very angular. And when you actually zoom in, you can start to see that there's actually a lot of curves on this ship. And I went into Photoshop and played with a lot of the light levels. And when you get close, you can actually see on the edges there are curves to it. It is just like a Reliant or a Mirai. It is not Nomad, and it is not Cyan. I think I've nailed this, and it would take someone, like, it would literally take CIG developer to say it's this. I could be completely wrong, and I'll be open to be completely wrong, but I think I've got really close to what it is. I don't know what the role is. Being military, I've had people say that it literally could be a bounty hunting ship, and that makes a lot of sense to me. It is literally the Slave 1 type thing. I don't know. Would that work for you if this was literally Slave 1, like a bounty hunter medium ship from Mirai? Because it's medium in size.
In all honesty, I think there are a lot of Star Wars fans that would love to have a Slave 1 style ship in Star Citizen. So, I mean, yeah.
Yep. Someone ban Essay from chat. He needs to be fucking slapped. Cheeky. No, he's a friend of mine. He's one of the military guys. He's been a cheeky bastard. He says it's a bomber. Drake bomber. He's teasing me. Yeah. I can slap him. Anyway, right. K9 Music question. How are you feeling about the Dema these days? Well, I'll let you talk about that, Moist or Pickles, because that...
Oh, I can talk about this a lot.
I think it's really good. I don't have a problem.
Can I...
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I share my... Can I do my TED Talk? So whenever somebody comes into my chat and they say, oh, can you talk to me about the Redeemer nerf? I just... What nerf, dude? It got buffed to hell, man. So the issue with the Redeemer, so in the previous flight model, I was killing fully crewed Redeemers with the Aurora MR. And the reason for that is, again, I was just talking about like how the profile head on with the Aurora being so small, right? And the fact of the matter is, the Redeemer is supposed to be an anti-fighter gunship that's so slow it can't actually engage fighters, and has guns so big that the projectile speed is so slow that the turrets can't hit fighters.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now it can actually take on fighters.
and it moves like it was meant to move.
Oh, it's such a joy to fly, dude. It's so nice now. Really, really nice.
I much prefer it. I actually really liked it when it was first, just before it was on the PTU, it flew really well. And then when they put it to live, they just made it this sluggish piece of shit. And I was like, oh, fuck's sake. It was so good on the and it's back to that now. It's back to that way it flies, but they've brought the guns down. And I guess they could technically from a component perspective, it should be cheaper because they've lowered the gun size. But I've got other questions, like how are you going to get those size 2 components out of the ship now?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're all size 3s. Now they've got size 2 shields. You have to technically be able to pick them up and take them out. And they've only got this tiny little...
There are quite a few larger ships where I've just thought to myself, how are these components going to... Like, I don't understand how we're supposed to get them in and out, right? Like,
when they're size 3...
magic plan.
When they're size 3, you've got to do it at a shipyard or at port, right? Essentially, right? But size 2s, you can physically pick up with a tractor beam and put them in and take them out. Now that's got 6, or however many shields it's got. I've forgotten how many it's got. I think it's 6. But 6 size 2 shields or whatever it is. There's no way you can put 6 size 2s not even on the floor. Like it's just not made for that. They need some way now to lift the whole back of the, or are they going to put them all downstairs, which doesn't work because it's modular? You get where I'm going with this. Like it's created a problem that I don't know how they're going to solve.
Yeah.
Or maybe it just is a ship that suffers from the fact that you can't take them out.
You know what? Sometimes I very often will do things in life and tell myself that is a problem for tomorrow, Noodle, not today, Noodle. And I suspect that this might be one of those situations, right, where they just want to try and get it balanced a little bit, right, and to be a little bit more fun, and they'll solve that problem down the road, right?
Real quick, I just noticed Sandgroper in chat. Sandgroper, you did an excellent job last night on General Desperado's stream. I was very proud of you. I was sitting there going, what am I going to have to correct here that he gets wrong? And you didn't get anything wrong. I was very impressed. You did a really good job. he was talking about upgrades and that, and informing everyone on Genstream. And job. I know you probably don't need the pat on the back, but I'm giving it anyway. Kudos where kudos is due. Right. JB says, what do you think the Anvil concept for AIE is going to be if this question hasn't been answered already? I think we did talk about this, but if you guys want to go again, feel free.
I tend not to theory craft about stuff like that much.
What would you want it to be? You want pew pew, don't you? You want a big pew pew. Javelin, but Corvette size, maybe?
No, I think I'd rather something more hammerhead size. Yeah, something a little bit more nimble. Maybe the Perseus already has like the 2 size 7s, right?
Let me float this idea to you. What if you took the railgun off the Idris, removed all the flight deck, and just had 2 railguns, one either side of the ship? It's just literally 2 railguns and then covered in guns like a hammerhead. Yeah.
We need more.
I've gone there.
More railguns in the game, dude.
I've gone there. That's what I would make. I would make a ship with 2 railguns that are turrets. Like, you know how the Bengals got the 2 big turrets underneath? But it's just 2 singular railguns. Almost
basically,
like the
what
Valkyrie.
You're saying is it's a giant double barrel shotgun, right?
Yeah, well, you know how the Valkyrie's got...
That's what you're telling me.
The Valkyrie's got the 2 turrets that hang on either side, but make them railguns, and then instead of all the normal... And then just have normal guns all over it, but there's no... There's maybe a cargo, but there's no vehicles that go in it. There's no people. It is just all guns all day. No docking, none of that. It's just a kind of like the Perseus, but instead of the Perseus, you've got 2 railguns, and then there's other turrets on it, and then bigger. So maybe like a Polaris or hammerhead size, as you said.
Imagine it's a different manufacturer, right? But imagine a capital size Ares. Right, where it's literally just
and it's all off to one side, and it's like a mega Bengal gun. That'd be crazy.
Not even in terms of like the layout, but just like the idea of it's literally a ship built around a gun, right?
You know who has to be then? It has to be Kruger. Algred's gone on and fucking on, and then on a bit more about how the Ares should have been Kruger. No, well, no, the Ares should have been made by Kruger.
Oh, true. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. That would make sense with the P-52.
And Benoit also brought up the same thing. And so Benoit and Algred both think Kruger needs more ships. That's how I do it. They just get so pissed at what happened with the Ares, they go out and make like a capital that's just a giant fucking gun on one side. That'd be just mad,
dude.
I'd love to see
the Inferno gun, upscale it, tonk, 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 tonk. That would be so good, dude.
Yeah. I'd love to see something like that, but more like Constellation size. So you've got essentially a ship about that size, one really massive gun and nothing else. And it hits super hard, but it takes like a minute before you can fire again.
Goes backwards every time it fires.
Yeah.
or it's got to go completely stationary before it can fire. Because it'll damage it'll damage the engines. It'll make it stall. If you fire,
you shoot it and it just flips the ship out.
Yeah, or something like that. So it needs to like stop and deploy stabilizers, like stabilizing thrusters to fire. That would be kind of cool. So it becomes like a flying sentry turret, essentially. That would be different. And then you could put like a size 10 gun on it, just a single size 10 gun. It's just
maybe a little big, maybe size 7 or 8.
There's something there, actually, when I think about it. A ship that could deploy like a turret, like a highly defensible ship. Like it essentially turns all its engines on, turns up its thrusters, turns up its shields, has armor, but it can't move.
Super tanky, damage, but doesn't move.
It gives up all its movement for everything else.
Because almost every ship now, thanks to master modes, is essentially just a floating turret.
For now. You tell me how different it's going to be when you're actually gliding in atmosphere.
Oh, that'd be amazing, dude. But I'm not always going to be in atmosphere. Sometimes I don't want to feel like a floating turret in space.
I think it will. I think we're still in the cart before the horse stage. I think it will come in, and there will be. The main problem when I have with a lot of PvSP is they're not seeing it from the big capital ships perspective. You have to have certain.
No, I've always thought about this, dude. Okay. You can go and watch VODs of mine from like 2016, dude. Even back then, I was talking about.
I'm not saying you specifically. I'm not saying you specifically because I know you think
that's fine. Then
you think
can bitch about everyone else.
You know that I've said to you in the past, like I know you think about things a lot more than other people's do. But some people are just so one track, they can't see outside their own gameplay. And again, we all make these little bubbles of the people that we hang out with. And I think if they really wanted to have that conversation, you would need to like have a room full of utility players, PvPE players and PvP players to nut that whole thing out properly. It's why I surround myself with so many different people. I even deliberately like to have people that I know are going to disagree with me because it shakes things out of the tree that you just won't get by any other means. Like I sometimes get people saying, why do you bring Space Tomato onto these ship episodes? Because he doesn't like ships. And I bring that up on the episode that'll come out this week. And then the reason I do is the reason I stated. He shakes things out of me that other people don't shake out of me because he's got this disposition.
Doing that just helps you understand other people's thought process, right? Like if you ask them why they think the way they do, right? It can completely change your perspective. Right. Which I think is really important.
But you also have to have those people that, though they disagree with you, they will also learn and move and change. And you need that with speculation. You have to go in. You get these people that they just want to win an argument. They're the people you can't speculate with because they're there to win, right? You got to talk with people that can. I don't even know how to explain it. It's more fluid. Like you change their mind, they change yours, and you learn and move together. And I don't know how else to explain that, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. You get those people that are just they want to win an argument, or they're really opinionated, and those people you can't speculate with because they're not. They think they treat it like a competition. It's not about competition. It's trying to get to the truth or find something through the thought process, and it doesn't always work, obviously, because you can be missing pieces of information. But it is very. There's not a lot that we can do right now because we just have a lot of lack of information in the game. So that's why I speculate so much because little things shake out, and a lot of the stuff that we found, like through the professional point of views, they've come to pass. So it's allowed us to see things somewhat towards the future. It's not perfect, but I don't know. People seem to enjoy the episodes, so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. I enjoyed doing them, so yeah. T-Jack, not a question. The reason you want more combat ships is because when one goes down, it can quickly be replaced in combat instead of waiting for repairs. So that's why you'd want more. I think he's talking about when we were talking about the Hangar and the Polaris. I think the other thing, though, is you can also cycle, say you had 6 fighters in the Polaris, you can cycle them back through and extend their lifespan so they don't have to go all the way back to port and come back again.
I think he means more along the lines of the combat capitals.
T-Jack, can you give us a follow-up? Was that from his question from before where he said, how the hell are you supposed to make money? Just wish they hope it grows on trees. And then he said, not a question. Yeah, because I asked him to follow up, but yeah, put all your questions into one contextual question, please, Mr. T-Jack. Context is not your strong suit. It's frustrating me. Put it all in one and we'll answer it. So the next time your question comes in, I expect it to be fully contextual. Dafty Digits. He's the guy that did the t-shirts, by the way, for the John crew, part of John's crew. Will they sell the Pioneer as a limited quantity ship? They weren't able to answer that when I asked them, but God, I hope they don't. It really needs to be removed, the limitability. But again, they may leave it on there because they've kind of hinted they don't want every org to have, everyone in an org to have one. So I don't know what they're going to do. Because at the moment, I can tell you most orgs have too many of them. Like when it's designed to kick off the building of a space station, that really is one for an org. And if one can build an entire city, we don't need that many of them. Unfortunately, that's just how that Pioneer is. It's a great ship.
What if you could build a city faster?
That's something I thought about too. But you got to remember, they are a ship that takes. They don't. The only thing they give is through the extraction stuff. Everything else is take. So they're a ship that has to be fed. You see what I mean? Like they're constantly eating resources, so they need to be fed by other ships. So if you then start to think about crew necessitations, an Orion, you see what I mean? It's an org level event.
Just seems to me like the org hasn't gotten enough haulers. Need to get more.
How big is the org that's like do the math? Like I'm trying to work it through. You crew all those economic based ships to build a city. You have the Pioneer that can build a city. How many numbers are we out there?
Have you not seen tests? They literally have data centers just running bots that send out org invites, dude. Like
yeah, but that's test. That's the biggest of the biggest, right? But the point I'm trying to get to is just how many people are you going to need to crew all the other ships to feed a Pioneer? And then you start multiplying that by every Pioneer you have. And that's we don't know that math. How many people can you actually fit on a space station? Like, we haven't got to that math yet. CIG has that math. They would have to be able to design it. But I don't know what those numbers are.
CIG has the math, dude?
Dude, how many rooms was on those bloody space stations? Like,
dude, they will do the same thing with the hangars. They will just make habs be like magical, floating, invisible in space, and then when you need to leave, it will teleport behind a door.
Well, they had five. I think they said 5 retaliators can land on a Bengal, and this space station builds a Bengal, so it's bigger than a Bengal. I can't even start to comprehend how many people. Like, is it 1,000 people on a space station? Is it 200? Is it like what is it? What's the number?
Well, maybe space stations will eventually have life support, right? And
then they had 3 of them linked together. Like, is Test the only org that's gonna be able to build that thing? Like the numbers, you know what I mean? Like
make them rare.
What? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how rare are they? How common are they? Like, is every org going to have their own space station? Are they literally going to be undermanned because you need 200 people minimum? Like, these are just all the questions I have. And Our Grid had the same things. Because the only thing that was really new to me in Our Grid was that space stations could build Bengals. We knew space stations were coming because we'd theorized it like 5 years ago, right? But they were way bigger than what me and him expected. And that's what we just can't get over is like, what are the numbers that they're actually predicting? Have they gone from like, the original pitch of Star Citizen was like, you don't even go down to planet. Are they now thinking like this is the biggest MMO that ever existed? Like, have they gone too big? Like, have they Icarus and gone too close to the sun? Or a space station is going to be half full of NPCs. We don't have those.
Strikes me as very much an analog for the system that's gone on in Eve at the moment. You have the POIs they used to make for building the Titans, and now they've moved on to the Citadels, and it seems like a very much similar thing. And in fact, as an MMO, as a game, it seems to be generally heading in that direction anyway.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if these stations, you don't need 200 people to man it constantly, but what they would be is a massive resource sink to actually give you a reason to keep going and putting into it.
You have to get a benefit out of it. And again, from what I can tell, the main benefit is you're able to build ships. But as you just said, you're not just feeding the creation of the ship, you've also got to maintain the city below and the space station. Because realistically, from what I gather, how they talked about the shielding system of the, you've got to win the thing. That shield will come from the city below, but that will be then fed to the space station as well. There'll be some kind of transmitter or something like that. So it becomes a bit like the Endor situation where you've got to cover the ground base and the star base all at the same time. So you start to stretch you have to have a lot of people, but you're stretching your resources thinner to then put it at risk to gain the benefit of the Bengal that comes out the other side. So yeah, I can't imagine it's less than 100 people. I just can't. But again, with server meshing and all that, is that where they're? I just don't know. I'd love to know. I'd love to have a Q&A on space stations and say we are theorizing this many people, because to me it just seems too damn big. And that's the first time I've ever said that. Like, I always dream being in this game, I'd love to be able to have a space station that had 1,000 people, but look at Blizzard's MMOs. Like, I think the server limits were 2,500. Like, and look how big that thing was. Like, how big are we talking here? It's crazy.
In CIG's head, it could be a thing, because don't forget NPCs are a thing, right?
Yeah.
So they could be thinking, well, these can be private closed stations just for orgs, or you could open them up for NPCs to trade and stuff like that, right?
We theorized that as well. We even went as far as, can you get the example I gave when you heard me talk about this, because where I said Burger King, Hungry Jack's, and KFC, they all got together and they make one space station and work and all work off it. They all get a little bit each and stuff like that.
Your resources.
To encourage orgs to not join but also work together, so you get brother and sister orgs and stuff like that.
And we've already got that. I mean, my org, there's 25, 30 of us.
Yeah.
But there's 3 other orgs that we're all mates with. We regularly play together. So it's it's something that I could reasonably see being appealing.
Yeah, that's food for thought. I just put it out there because, like, I know you're talking about limiting ships, but like, we're now getting to building territory too. Like, how? You know what I mean? Like, it's rapidly expanding. I don't know. It's something I've thought a lot about since CitizenCon, and I don't have an answer. So it'll just sit there as a big annoying question mark in my head until it gets answered. Right. North End Trooper says, question for those who have a Polaris that are not LTI. Do you think that there will be buyer's remorse for ships at a Polaris cost and above? I'll let you guys answer that one because I know the answer. So I mean,
they talk about warranties and whatnot, right? It's
yeah.
So
I think you're real. Go ahead.
I think for me, if I had a 10-year-old Polaris, Jesus Christ, a Polaris with 10-year insurance, I don't think I would really have buyer's remorse. Personally, just depends on what happens with the warranty system, right?
Considering they only essentially have evaluated LTI at $15, I think it's a really nice to have. Especially like the bigger a ship gets, the more nice it becomes. Like LTI on a Nox or an Atlas, no one gives a shit. Right? It don't matter at all. Like, the cost is so negligible, it's not funny. But when the bigger you go, the more essential it becomes. I think that also speaks to it, the fact, because as soon as a ship goes over $1,000, it's got LTI. They know that as well. I do hope at a later date they allow us to retroactively add LTI to ships. I think it's something they should just sell. It's $15 and you can add it to any ship. It's like like a lifetime insurance claim thing, and they just sell it $15, and you, much like an upgrade, you just attach it to a ship and it gives LTI. And I know it was given as a benefit to those that have been here for a really long time, but if you're spending money on the game, just give them LTI. Like, it would simplify the whole. I have a whole series of videos, and half this channel is based on just financial advice around this game, and I'm not like it essentially kills what I'm doing. But I don't care, because it's better for everyone else if it's just simpler. Like, Ben Curtis and John talked about, they couldn't believe they tried to watch some of our videos and it hurt their head. So if it's hurting the developers' heads, they now know what it's like for everyone else. I'll go on a stream and they'll ask me to talk about things, and people just go, stop, I can't take it anymore. So it's too confusing for most people. They need a simplified system. Anything you want to add to that, Pickles? I know you're not big into the
I mean, naturally, some people are going to look back and go, I'd spend X amount of money on this thing, and some people are going to regret spending that kind of money. It happens, but equally, that I'd expect that at absolutely any price point. Someone might buy a game on Steam and go, actually, I didn't really enjoy that. It's a fact of something that happens, and to be surprised to see it, I think, would be a little naive.
It's pretty easy to fix, though, before a ship releases. Afterwards, it becomes a little bit more of an expense, especially at that price point. It's going to go up by $150. So we're looking at $825 to $950. for that ship, and so you're essentially be losing that. Like again, as I said, LTI is valued at $15, so you're better off to keep the 10 years insurance, unfortunately. And yes, you'll have buyer's remorse and wish you'd had, but then you learn. And that's why I try and do here, and Margaret does here, and the other boys too. We try to teach people to learn from our mistakes. Yeah. Northern Trooper says, question, what is the point of NPCs in your ship if you have AI blades? I think that's we kind of covered that.
AI blades are shitter version of NPCs, essentially.
Yep. They just do shooting and they don't have any personality. And I guess they cost a lot of money, and they also take up other resources from other parts of the ship. So you can't.
Something else to consider is if you lose ship power, you lose your AI blades. You know, an AI blade isn't going to be able to repair a damaged component compared to if you've got an engineer NPC.
Or put out a fire, right?
You know, put out a fire, etc., etc.
Yeah, MPs cost more, but they're more versatile. Socially confused question. Do you think NPC crew will be rep based? Say you would need to good rep with the various guilds to unlock. I think some crew will be rep bound, yeah, for sure. But also, the more inexperienced they are, the less bound they'll be. I think you'll get all types, you know. I think the personality is going to make or break a lot of the NPCs, actually. I don't know. It's interesting. Again, man, it's been a long time since I was talking to Morph about this at CitizenCon, actually. It's been a really long time since we've done any AI stuff, and the last kind of episode we did was with him. And Algrid and I did do one that they did hint that there's stuff coming for AI. And again, as I said, we mentioned the Zeus ST and the E1 are in the files. And you know, the jump point that came out just before CitizenCon, it actually mentioned you will see more soon. And so we thought that meant you'll be seeing AI stuff at CitizenCon, but it didn't happen. So when are we seeing it? So is it coming in December, like some kind of holiday live stream again, which they'll never repeat? Or or is it in 4.0, or is it early next year? You see where I'm going there, right? When they say more coming soon, I'm essentially asking, what's the soon part? Is it 12 months? Is it?
Well, Disco Lando told us in 2016 that Orgs 2.0 was coming soon. That was in 2016.
Yeah.
So
he gets led astray as much as we do, let's be honest. He just gets told to say stuff and he just takes it to the face like a champ. So yeah. Ostentatious, do you think there is a bit bloody mental that they have only just discovered an MO is necessary? Like 90% of the single engine design is built using QMT that was never going to fly. Who do you think it will take to convert the whole Star engine into? It's always been an MMO. I don't get
that. Messed around that. He's written MMQ. I assume you're talking about RMQ.
Yeah.
And the real answer to that is tech debt. So as software is designed, as requirements are set, as you work your way along the process, you will design a system for what you think you're building it for. And at the time, that's what they designed it for. In using, essentially, you balance out what you need to deliver versus how much manpower it will need. So, you know, to create a massively scalable system that may be scalable over what they need is a use of manpower that actually could be used somewhere else compared to doing something that only does what they need. And that's a fact of anything, really. As you move along, things will need to be redone, refactored. It's the nature of software. Yeah, like someone in chat just said, that there's trial and error. You'll do something, you might not get it right, and something like this hasn't really been done. So sure, as a software architect, you can sit down and go, I think we'll need this, but no one knows. No one is going to know until you implement that and find out.
They talked about that in ISC this week, right? Where they tried something and it didn't work, right? So yeah.
Well, they try something else. Remember the whole iCache thing? People got livid about that. They spent 18 months and it failed. No, they learned how not to make a light bulb like Edison. You know, you got to try and fail. That's just R&D.
It's a whole learning experience, and it takes time and it takes effort to get to a production solution. And that's nothing unique with Star Citizen. That's standard across the games industry. It's standard across anything software is used.
I can't. I don't want you to say what your job is, but I can't imagine how many times that happens to you. That must happen a lot with what you do, yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah,
all the time. You know, we'll design a system, we'll do something, and then we'll find out some new piece of information, some requirement will change, and we'll need to go back to the drawing board essentially. So it's not a unique thing. It happens, and the fact that they've recognized that this isn't going to work, instead of trying to push it and just gone back to the drawing board and gone, okay, how can we do this better? And done it properly from the start, you're going to end up with a much better solution in the end than if you just keep forcing what you originally did further down the chain.
They even applied to, when they were showing, there were problems that they couldn't see. Once they got rid of one problem, there was another problem that they couldn't even see. So that's the thing. They're essentially, creating this pipeline for server meshing. And
I mean,
other problems were coming in as they were clearing one, something else was coming in.
Yeah, and that's part of your almost standard optimization. You look at, say I want to improve frame rates, for example. I'd look at what's taking the most time up in each frame, and say, how can I shorten this? And I might reduce that down to be one of the least, and then I'll look at the next longest thing, and it's the same thing here. You look at each bottleneck and you tackle it as you go down. And that separates the problems. So instead of having this huge, big, massive, slow system, you can go, okay, this module is slowing it down. Let's make this fast. And then you can move on to the next and on to the next.
Yeah. Okay.
You explained that so eloquently.
Yeah. He is like that. When he gets on his little soapbox, he's very good.
When it's something I know about,
yeah. So he's very good when he does it. Anyway, he just, I don't know, you got to push him with a stick sometimes to actually come on shows and stuff. He's a bit, I wouldn't say shy, but you're definitely camera shy.
I don't like the limelight.
Yeah, he doesn't. But,
no, neither do I, dude.
Yeah, but he's very good at. Well, you're both very good like that, So yeah. I said goodbye. Good day, sir. Asks, how do you think they are going to implement the different hangar companies like Selfland? What are some of the others? AeroView, VFG Industrial, and Revel and York. I think that's all of them. Since the new ships are still being sold, including hangars and so on. How do you guys expect that'll roll out?
I've got good answers to this, actually. So it's part of the move to instance hangars, like we've done, is actually a huge move towards this.
Yep, agreed.
Because a hangar, so the way the game streams in objects essentially is everything is put into an object container, which we've all heard before. But to actually but object containers are hierarchical. Yep. So, for example, you might have an object container that is a room in a ship, and then another object container that contains object containers for each room. That might be the ship interior, and then another wider object container that contains the interior, the exterior, the lights, etc. So what we can, and that's been applied to hangars. So when you go to a landing zone, you go in your hangar. All the game is doing is streaming in a copy essentially of that container for the hangar that you need and putting you in there. And then when you need to leave, it just, all the hangar doors are standard size. So it just matches you up to a door and off you go. So if you want to get a different hangar, that's fine. You can just get a different hangar.
I don't know if you've noticed, but the inside of the door and the outside of the door can be different because they're two separate doors just wedged together.
Yep.
So, yeah, they don't match up.
Yeah.
I also think you've got to take location into account as well. So, for example, the hangars in Pyro are vastly different to anything in Stanton. So what I'm actually expecting is the major landing zones will have all the different hangars, and based on what you have or how much you pay to rent them, that is what you'll get. But then you'll go to, say, a certain space station, and they might not have Revel and York. You might go to the Origin headquarters, and all they have is Revel and York, right? So I actually think it'll be tailored to Pacific landing zones as well. And I also think beyond that, we'll get a lot that we don't have. Like, well, I put this to you. Would you say that the ones in Pyro are VFG Industrial, or would you say there's something that we've never seen before? Because I would say there's something we've never seen before.
I mean, they're just trashed hangars, aren't they?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
they're just trash stuff at the moment, aren't they?
Because
So
don't
what?
forget
So what are
that-
they? Are they safe land that are bashed up, or are they?
Well, I think they're just wear and tear. Like, don't
Okay.
forget, wear and tear is
Wear and
supposed
tear,
to affect
yep.
everything, including
True.
locations, right? So,
well, we even
I
theorized
think it's
that.
more that.
We even theorized at one point, like, could it get that weird that, say, you move into Pyro and someone does up the stations to back to a brand new state? Can you actually rotate through these things? So pirates move in, they take it over, they make it all dilapidated, it all goes to shit, all the resources get used up, they move on, then someone else moves in, does it all up again, and it becomes new again. And it's this.
Okay, bear with me, because this is very pie in the sky, because this was Chris, right? But he did years ago, I think, again, on a 10 for the chairman, talk about that it was, the conversation was around the context of economy. And how a changing economy in an area will actually change that area in the game, and it can become dilapidated, but then if the economy picks back up again, then that wear and tear will kind of get fixed and it will look nicer again, etc, right?
Remember they talked about the outposts too, and they could all get dilapidated and then they could get redone. So we just took that from the outposts and what you said and put it onto everything. So can you literally have a space station go to shit, and then think about how it got all those broken pieces off the station in Pyro? Can you repair it back all onto the station?
I'd disagree here in terms of the actual hangars. I think seeing that kind of degradation in public spaces is fine. But I think in your own personal hangar, you know, if you want to make it look run down, that's on you. You can customize it to do that.
Yeah.
But I personally, I'd like to see the ability to, if you own a hangar, if you've got access to it, I think you should be able to use that any way you like, because there's no technical reason that can't be done. All you're doing is matching up a door to a door to get in and out. Yeah, and
it's
I
just
think
a little weird though
it's
just a little weird to have a really luxurious Revel and York hangar, and then as soon as you step outside, everything else has gone to shit. Because that doesn't make sense. Because anyone that basically saw that hangar, it's just jarring on the immersion. But wouldn't it be a Revel in York that's all dilapidated?
But why not? You could be a pirate lord who's you know put a fancy hangar in a station just for you. And,
I don't know. It's not.
I mean, it is just aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
So.
Not my choice to make that decision. I'm just curious. I'm asking the devil's advocate question. That's all. Yeah. Wild Phil Presents asks, the Reclaimer got its capital shield back, but it's only 150k HP compared to the 890's 425 shields. Do you think that they'll be able to buy capital shields at a 3.24 since 3 ships will have down the road? There used to be a thing where you couldn't actually put 3 of the same size shields on the Reclaimer. Do you remember back in the day when you tried to put the military shields on it, you could only put 2 on, not the 3rd one, because it had weird power requirements? I just think again, the Reclaimer is clearly not as powerful. You got to remember, there's one of the things I'm noticing in Evo, and I don't know if you guys can speak to this, but say you get in a Drake ship, it just doesn't have as much power to go around. So components are a lot more important now, where when I was in an Origin ship, it could just do anything. I could turn every single thing on, not even blink. Like, it just had way better components in it. So component levels are going to start to matter a lot more now, because previously you'd have a shield and the shields are all the same. You know, the guns were roughly all the same. The components, other than the jump drives, everything else is pretty much the same. So now all the others are starting to come in. That's the really big change I think most people are going to notice in 4.0, is just stuff matters now, you know, across the board. Yeah. I don't know how else. I can't ask a future question. I can answer a future question like that. And I don't think these boys can either, with the Reclaimer specifically. Eventually, yes, I think you will be able to swap the shields out. It would be my response. I don't know when, though. Did you guys agree with that, or?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Squall Lionheart says, Wild Phil Presents. That's a great question. Okay. John Flick says, question, what manufacturers are missing? What size at what point? I feel almost everything is filled. Without making this take forever, I think we could probably talk about the starter ships that are missing. I did allude to an Aegis starter. We don't have Argo in both regular starter and advanced starter. We don't have an RSI advanced starter. I think that's about it. Oh. No, we got one of those. Solid Outland's got both. Crusader doesn't have a starter. They have an advanced starter, so we could technically also see... Oh, God. Can you imagine what if it's just a box? Like, what's a more boxy version of what we just got from the Reliant? Like, is it just the cube?
I'd buy a cardboard box with engines on it.
Like that's what CIG should do to troll people in the next week. Oh, by the way, here's the starter, and it's just like even like it's the worst of everything, and it's just like a trapezoid diamond thing that goes all over the place. I don't know, but yeah, really troll people there if they wanted to. I don't know. Is there any other ships there that you think that are kind of missing? I think the only other ones I can think of is like agriculture, more gas collectors like the Starfarer, and refinery ships. They're the three missing big ones. And science. We're missing a couple of science ships as well. A couple of repair ships. Any others that you guys can think of?
Small crafters. Small crafting ships, maybe.
True. Shop ships as well. Shop ships.
Yeah,
the smaller shop ships.
Yeah.
There's quite a few, but you can see why I'm going over it generalized. Would be here forever if I went through every size of every type. It's too. That's.
There are so many ships already in the game. I can't even remember half of what we have to have this conversation.
Well, you're like me and Algrid. We keep, you'll say Gladiator, Gladius, and Gladiator. Like, just all the words start to blur together. There's too many already, as you said. Bad Hog says, will the Polaris be able to refuel, rearm, etc. any fighter you're carrying? Would you then have to load in, say, 20 times S3 missiles for your F8 along with the 10 crates of ballistic ammo? Yes.
I mean, there are elevators down from the cargo bay to the hangar, right? That's there for a reason.
Yep. You have to have the materials to repair them, but it will only be kind of hand repair. But
I think it literally says in the brochure it can rearm, repair, and refuel ships in the hangar.
Yep. But again, it will only be hand repair. So it'll be the same thing you'd be doing in the ground, but you're doing it in the safety of a hangar. But yeah, you can put things back in fighting form enough that they can go back out there and take another swing. And most ships will have to fly all the way back to port. You won't have to do that. I think the refueling will probably be the most useful thing, but also rearming. Like if they've got ballistics, putting ballistics back on is going to be absolutely huge. So you can
Have you noticed the really cool fuel nozzles they've been adding onto ships recently? As if they are expecting us soon to attach hoses to ships.
So can you imagine hoses on the Polaris coming across the flight deck and the guys...
That will be sick, dude.
And then some accident happens and then there's a fire. You see where I'm going, right? It's all starting to tie together very, very quickly. Imagine if you can somehow get an enemy fighter into the hangar and it sets a fire and all of a sudden the Polaris is in a great deal of shit.
Imagine someone sneaks on the ship, dude. The damage that they could cause.
Remember the
holy shit.
The subcomponents they talk about that could sabotage? So or a fake fuse you put in near the hangar bay and someone does something and fire. The espionage stuff goes off the charts very, very quickly. People are going to be so damn paranoid about who they let on their ships once that shit comes in.
I can't wait, dude. It's going to be so good.
Execute, is that straight vodka is the last question. No, it's just water. Just water. That's everything, gentlemen. We have gone 10 minutes over time or 8 minutes over time. I'm going to look for someone to raid. Is there anyone that you have preferences for? Moist, I think I'll probably tailor that at you because you're more of the Twitcher than either of us. We've got Expat, we've got Tomo. I'm very tempted to raid
Space
Tomo.
Cutler is around, and Space Cutler is a very theory crafty person.
Where is he?
Yeah.
And I did meet Cutler with you. Where is he? Space Cutlet. I'm just looking for numbers. There he is, 118. Yeah, we can raid him. Let's do that. /raid space.
If you guys have not been to Cutlet's channel before, he is very much the pirate, but he is incredibly smart And if you want to learn some stuff, he's somebody you can learn from.
And he came from the Ukraine too, so he's been through this shit.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, he loves a good talk though. That's for sure. All right, Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. Thanks for joining us. We'll be here again next week. Actually, before we go, do you want to say where people can find you on the interwebs, Mr. Moist?
I am on twitch.tv, moist_noodle. You can search me on YouTube as well, Moist Noodle. And I'm starting to do more Instagram stuff for anybody who's into motorbikes, because I'm finally out on my motorbike and I'm live streaming on my motorbike. I've been out all day live streaming on my motorbike. It's been good.
Question for Space Cutlet to get them to ask. What would you something that'll tease him? You know, pull something out of him. Oh, you know him better than me.
Oh, I don't know, dude. Yeah. They've been doing a lot of sneaking onto Polarises recently, so anything around like espionage on a cap ship or like what's the best way to get onto a Polaris?
Yeah.
Right.
Who's more sneaky, him or Moist? Yeah, I think that's the question. Who's more sneaky?
Cutlet.
Yeah, Cutlet. All right. Cutlet. All right, Twitch, say goodbye to YouTube. YouTube, say goodbye to Twitch. And they're gone. All right. So they're off. As for YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Thank you to everyone that did an extra mile on Patreon. And that's it. We're done. Piggles, is there anything you want to talk about that you want to highlight before we head off?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right. Thank you both for joining us. He's been Sir Piggles. He's been Moist Noodle. I've been Execute. See you next time, citizens.
See ya.